It's Super Bowl Sunday stream. Hope you're all doing well. Hi, hello, and welcome. Hope you're all having a good weekend. Weekend has been quite nice for me. It's been productive. It's been rejuvenating, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Been able to see friends. We'll be seeing family today to watch the Super Bowl. Yeah, good weekend so far. So hope the same for you guys. How are we all doing? Happy Happy Sunday. All right, no, stop. I thought we had an issue with OBS. Looks like we're all good. So, phew, my heart dropped for a bit. So the reason, so I am late. I have been late before to stream, but this is the latest I've ever been to stream. I'm usually late by like 5 minutes max. 2 to 3 minutes usually. This time I was a good 15 minutes late, if not more. The reason for that is because I, for the first time, had the very dreaded experience of opening up OBS, and I should have done so as soon as I logged into my computer this morning to make sure that I was ready to stream today because I was always intending to stream today. But I logged on and OBS settings were reset. And so that was fun. And I think for me personally, like a lot of my OBS settings, so not all of my OBS settings are reset. Like my scenes, my sources, for those of you guys who know what those are still good. But what was reset were a lot of my extensions. And I have an extension called iTunes Multistream, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but it allows me to stream to both YouTube and to Twitch pretty effectively. So that unfortunately was gone, so I had to bring it back up. I had to make sure everything looked good. So not sure why it happened. I hear that it does happen. Can't really explain it. I tried googling it, so it just, I guess. So who knows? But anyway, today, so most of you guys are probably focused on the Super Bowl. I am also focused on the Super Bowl, but I wanted to get this stream out today because honestly, I couldn't wait anymore. I wanted to talk about this shit. We're going to be doing the Honkai Star Rail 3.0 Amphoreus story discussion slash recap. For those of you in my imaginary audience who watched me play The Legend of Naita, you guys are going to be very familiar with this. But essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a YouTube video, and we're going to go through the Amphoreus story basically, and I will just be talking about what I liked, what I didn't like, what my opinions are on certain things, any theories that I have. Basically, we're just gonna talk. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna be like, "Yeah, dude, this shit was cool," or "Yeah, nah, bro, this shit was ass." So that's what we're gonna be doing, and then after we finish with that, we're gonna log on to Star Rail. We're gonna do our dailies, and we'll finish it off with reacting to the Aglaya trailer, which we have yet to react to, which is unfortunate. Most of the time, I would want to react to a trailer before I summon for a character, but that was not the case this time. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's what we're gonna do today. So it should be a good time. So for those of you who remembered what I said last stream, so it has been a decent amount of time since we last streamed. We last streamed on Wednesday, I believe. You guys probably were expecting this stream either yesterday or on Friday. Some things came up. I was not able to stream yesterday or Friday. So we're doing it today. And but also I know because it's Super Bowl Sunday, we are not going to be doing this same stream in combination with the kind of Zenless Zone Zero catch up stream. So what I talked about on Wednesday last week, or I guess it's still the same week, but a couple days ago on Wednesday, was that we were going to be doing this stream on Friday or Saturday, and we were going to start with this story recap for Star Rail, and then we were going to transition into doing kind of a catch up with Zenless Zone Zero, where we were going to watch the story that I had done with ZZZ when I first played it towards launch, and I didn't pay attention to it. So basically, we were going to kind of like start from the beginning on ZZZ over again, watch a story that I played, and actually process it internally this time. And then we were going to start playing Zenless Zone Zero. So that stream is still happening, but it's going to be tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to be doing two streams, and this you can. I guarantee this will happen. So usually you guys cannot hold me to my promises that I make on stream. No, this will be happening. So tomorrow on Monday I will be doing two streams. We're going to be doing one stream kind of earlier in the afternoon. It's going to be a ZZZ Zenless Zone Zero trailer / character demo reaction. So all of the character demos and trailers I have yet to watch. So the only two that I've ever watched have been the Zhu Yan stuff because I summoned for Zhu Yan when she came out. I have not watched any character after or any character before. So any of their demos or trailers, we're gonna watch them all. Any story trailers or demos that were teased from the beginning of the game, we're gonna watch those as well. It's gonna be a nice, decently long stream, but not too long, like an hour and a half max. And then after that, we're gonna take a bit of a break. I'm gonna get some dinner, kind of rested a little bit after work, and then we're going to come back in evening, and then that evening stream is going to be the catch up to the story stream. We're going to watch the story that I've missed, any side quests that I did that I don't remember. I think there's only one, so we're going to do that in the evening, and then Tuesday we're going to be doing obviously a big Evelyn summoning stream where we will summon for her and maybe even her W engine. And then we will finally, after getting Evelyn, we will start playing the game pretty seriously, at least for a couple days until Trails Through Daybreak 2 comes out. So that is unfortunate. But that's just the way the cards fell, right? So anyway, those are the housekeeping items, I guess, is what I wanted to update you guys on. And that is, I want to almost guarantee that is happening. The reason I want to really make sure that that schedule that I just kind of set is actually happens the way I said it is because I want to make sure that by the time we have Evelyn, right, once we summon for her and she's ready to be used, I want to just use her. I don't want to summon for her and just put her on the bench and just forget about the game and then later come back. No, once I summon Evelyn, I want to use her and I want to play the game and enjoy the game. So yeah, that's what's going to happen. Anyway, enough stalling. We're going to Star Rail. Okay, so this is the Star Rail Full Trailblaze story quest. We've got our classic, our iconic, our best bud, CG Inferno. Go subscribe to him, even though I'm not subscribed. I really should subscribe. Actually, yeah, hold on. Bada bing. Okay, so, but yeah, we're basically going to go through this whole video. We're going to talk about it. We're not going to go as in detail as I did with Nayata, because obviously this is going to, now if we went into as much detail as we did with Nayata, this would be like a 3-hour stream, and I don't have that time, nor do I really want to be talking for 3 straight hours. So we're basically gonna go through this. So anyway, the story starts with our regular scene with the Astral Express when they're going to a new planet, right? We've done this a few times before, nothing special. The only thing that's pretty interesting about this scene, which I thought was pretty fun, was obviously we have a new passenger on the Express, Sunday. And for those of you who do not know, Sunday is one of my favorite Star Rail characters. In fact, he's second. He's behind only Firefly, and Firefly is like insurmountable. Firefly is one of my favorite video game characters ever, let alone Star Rail. So it goes Firefly number 1 and then Sunday number 2. So anyway, obviously I'm super happy that Sunday is potentially going to join the Astral Express, and I was like hoping that we would get a scene with him here. We don't, unfortunately. It's mostly the actual Astral Express members discussing whether or not they want to take Sunday with them on to Amphoreus, and we can maybe get there we go. We get these some fantastic dialogue options. But he does show up later in the story, so that is good. But anyway, so we get the scene, right? Everyone's talking about, and they basically all vote to go to Amphoreus, which is we already knew that in advance, right? So you go around, you talk to everyone, including Sunday and Black Swan, right? You kind of discuss about the fact that you're going to Amphoreus, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we're going to Amphoreus." And well, once you're ready to go into Amphoreus, there's our favorite character, Sunday. Well, second favorite character, Sunday. You get the cutscene that you always get when you go to a new planet, right? So there's the Trailblazer, depending on if you picked Kalis or Stell, and there is Absolute Wife, Absolute Mom, Black Swan coming in. Can we just hold that shot for a bit? Can we just hold that shot? We can hold this one too. And she reveals the planet, which looks like an infinity sign, which is actually really cool. I love the design of this planet. So short cutscene, good cutscene, right? So then you have a little bit more of a conversation with Black Swan, but this one is an interesting conversation. So the rest of the actual Express members are here. Sunday's in the background, probably listening in. So Black Swan, as much as I love her, she is also one of my favorite Star Rail characters. She's probably like top 5 still. Um, she is a bit sus. Let me just say that. I mean, she's always been sus, right? But I felt in Penacony, she had a very clear agenda of helping us, right? She was on the Astral Express's side, and even if she was sus, she was doing things for our benefit. So like I never was like overly sus of her, right? Now the way she's speaking, even her tone of voice, like her voice actor, I forget her exact name, isn't it Bryn? She does Blake from Ruby as well. Her voice actor does an amazing job in these couple of lines that she has in this story patch. Her voice is still the same, but it's got a little bit more seriousness to it. It's a little bit more kind of depth and gravitas. And I really got the sense that this is not the same Black Swan that we had on Penacony. Yes, it's the same mind and body, right? But her attitude is different now. And I really liked kind of this change of character for her. At least that's the sense that I got from Black Swan at the start of the story quest. So anyway, that you get a little bit of lore, a little bit of discussion on Amphoreus, right? You get the 3 paths of Amphoreus that are prevalent. So it's the remembrance, the erudition, and there's like a mystery third path that we don't know. So the next thing that's interesting about this conversation is, here we go. So basically, you're discussing that March is not there, and if you had watched the Amphoreus trailers, you kind of know that at the very least, at the start of Amphoreus, it's just going to be you and Don Hung. So, right, I assume that the rest of the Astral Express will be joining us, including Sunday, because honestly, at this point, I fully believe that Sunday is joining the Astral Express and that he's just under a trial period, kind of like we were, right? So, this is going to be Sunday's trial period. That but he will be showing up alongside Himiko and Welt at a later date, and of course March as well. So March is always intended to go with us, actually, but you kind of like go to go see her, and she's not feeling well, and that immediately is, I think, a really good start to showing how this story is going to be a bit. It's going to have a much darker tone, I feel, like compared to Penacony and Bellabog and the Xianzhou. And even then, those stories did have some very darker moments. But not having a March, who is usually such a ray of light, right? Such a pillar of like purity and innocence, not having her with us on a, expedition is already going to take the tone and turn it to be much, much more serious. So yeah, she's sick. She's not feeling well. So basically, Black Swan comes in later. Sunday comes in because he is obviously very in tune with people's emotions, feelings, and general mental state. And he uses tuning on her, right? He kind of like uses his power of harmony to kind of feel out March. And basically, March ain't doing too hot. So she's staying behind. So good to have Sunday with us. This fucking honestly, if you told me this was, if Don Hung was here and you told me this was going to be the Astral Express till the end of the game, bro, I'd be so fucking happy. These are like 2 of my favorite characters in the game, Sunday and Black Swan. And just to see them both on the Express with everyone, like, I got me going a little. I was like, yeah, this is cool. But I don't think Black Swan's joining as much as I would like for her to join. But I do think Sunday is joining. I mean, he's got this little weird red strip on his coat for whatever reason. There's no other red on his design besides this little strip right here. So what I'm trying to say is that's probably a room for a express ticket. So she gives you her camera. That's really cute. She wants you to take pictures for her. Then the rest here we go. So the rest of the people on the Astral Express, besides March, unfortunately, so Don Hung is included now. They all discussed, what the general like approach going forward will be. Himiko the leader, the mom. She's like, you and Don Hung should go first. We will stay here to take care of March and potentially catch up with you guys later, right? And I think it's a really good showcase of Himiko being the leader again. Because Himiko at the start of the game was this very kind of mystique figure, right? She didn't really go on expeditions with you. There was very little screen time for her. She had a couple, right? She had like a specific side quest I remember, but Himiko at the start of the game felt a bit kind of like a bit distant, a bit unapproachable, and I think that was intentional. They really wanted to communicate that she was this leader of the Astral Express, that she was the navigator, that she was a special figure within the game because she is, right? Well, fast forward a bit, she comes with us to Penacony and she starts to feel like more like a general main cast member because she is, right? She can play both roles as a character at once. And I think this moment right here where Himiko really like, the Astral Express is in a moment of turmoil, right? One of our members is not feeling well. She's sick to a certain extent. We've also got a new potential Astral Express member and a passenger, right? Things in the Astral Express aren't, you know, typical right now. And so you can see her kind of step up and she takes on, the leadership role again one more time. And there were a few moments in Penacony, right, when Himiko stepped up and really took on a leadership role as well. But this to me was a nice reminder that yes, Himiko is even within the bounds of the Astral Express special. So yeah, the grown ups stay behind. Basically, they're like, "You, Don Hung, you guys go do an expedition." We get our special car, right? A special Astral Express car, and we get another cutscene with that special Astral Express car where we go into Amphoreus if the shit would load. Thank you. And basically, we get fucking javelined. We get railgunned. We get fucking shut down. Look at this shit. Come bam. I missed it by a little bit, but bro, how are we not dead? Like honestly, like that for one, the initial kind of spear or whatever hit us should have killed us. And then the crash landing should have killed us as well. But we wake up, I just got like a mild concussion. Don Hung's taking a nap. Like everything, like look at the rubble. How are we not dead? Well, actually, when you consider the disposition of each of our characters, right? You've got a living Stellaron and a scion of the Permanence, right? Don Hung's a fucking Videodora, so maybe that's why we didn't die. But anyway, so we basically wake up Don Hung, and we're in this foreign land. We're on Amphoreus, and shit is crazy. So Don Hung is the one that first introduces it. Um, yeah, right here. So he's the first one that immediately notices what I think the player notices, right? That there is likely civilization here on Amphoreus to a certain extent. There are buildings, there's architecture, there's, different um different markings on the wall, right? Hieroglyphics, etc. And Don Hung immediately hones in on this. And I'm glad that he did because I would expect Don Hung to kind of focus in on something like that. So immediately you start thinking like, oh, okay, there's other people here, right? And us who have watched the trailers, we know that obviously, but these characters don't, right? They could have gone to Amphoreus and it could have just been a giant ball of nothing. So and immediately Don Hung is like, okay, shit, on alert, right? So fast forward, you basically got you start to play the game. You go through the stage, and you get to this moment right here, to where you see this giant, basically statue holding a giant ball of light, or a giant sphere of light. And this is their first introduction to the Titans. This is the first time they ever see something of this magnitude, of this impact, and they have no idea at this point just what deep influence this Titan has on the rest of the world, right? Kefali is basically the one Titan left that is doing something for humanity. So, well, Oryx kind of, but yeah. So some more kind of discussion on the state of the world. Then you go and you take a picture of Kefali, right? Anyway, so you approach this giant gate and you're going to go take a picture of it. And I think you do take a picture of it, and these mobs, these enemies are approaching you. And you go fight them, right? But what comes directly after is what's important. So We get another cutscene. Don Hung and Trailblazer are fighting. You get a glow of this some kind. Oh shit, this happened already. Let's go back. Yeah, a mystery man drops from the fucking sky. He destroys all of them at once, and then he's just like, "Hey, look at me. I'm hot." And immediately he disarms the Trailblazer. Don Hung attacks, and then using Trailblazer's own bat, breaks the sphere of Don Hung. Then he does like a fancy bat like maneuver. You immediately tell this guy's a fucking badass. He is strong and he's going to be important based on not just his. This is a main character design, right? Fucking the blue hair, the eyes, the shoulder pad, the fucking armor, like the trench coat, like all right, this guy is something. Like this is an important dude. But also, it kind of speaks to just how crazy Finon is, right? We know how strong Don Hung is. He's a great combatant, right? And Kalis or Stell, obviously, isn't a slouch either. They're not a slouch either. And Finon immediately in this kind of unknown world of a civilization that really has no connection to the outside world, he comes in and takes care of both of them, disarms both of them. So he's pretty crazy. So yeah, Don Hung and Trailblazer are like, "Hey yo, what the fuck? You just broke my spear, and give me my bat back." But they have a conversation with Finon, and the situation kind of starts to de-escalate. And I'm really glad that they've done such a good job with Finon's introduction here. They make him appear kind of a bit youthful, right? A bit reckless, a bit playful, and there's also a little bit of cockiness, right? They don't just do it with his dialogue and in his expressions, but with his tone of voice especially. Um, they do such a good job at like introducing him and making you aware that this is a mostly inexperienced character, right? You can tell he's very capable, very skilled, but based on his general demeanor and the way he acts and his body language, he's youthful, he's cocky. There's a little bit of like, that young kind of energy that he has. But at the same time, he is a seasoned leader and a seasoned warrior. So you kind of get the sense that he is this heroic figure that it is probably new or inexperienced to being a heroic figure, but has an immense amount of talent and skill at what he does, right? This is like the superstar rising, talent of this world. And that's, his design, everything about Finon supports that. And it's such a good introduction. You get a sense of who Finon is like that. It's immediate. It's so quick. So, but yeah. So obviously they discuss the situation begins to de-escalate a little bit. One thing that I really liked about the scene is that this distance between Finon and the Astral Express members, it never shortens. They remain at this distance the whole scene, and it kind of shows that okay, yeah, they're starting to de-escalate the situation. They're talking it out, but things are still tense, right? Things are still, things could potentially go south very quickly. So very good scene. We get an introduction to another new character. So this is Tribby. And Tribby, I think, is a really good character to introduce alongside Finon because Tribby or Trinon or whatever, the other ones is called, I forget. But they have a really good kind of like dynamic with Finon where Finon is able to kind of relax a little, right? And Tribby is able to kind of like bring out Finon's more casual side to him. So we start to warm up to Finon a little bit, right? And she calls him Snowy, like she kind of like berates him a little bit. Like it's a good way to kind of diffuse the tension in the air. So now the tension starts to dissipate. There's still a little bit of it, obviously, but it's a good way to use a character to kind of like introduce another side of a character. Anyway, we're gonna fast forward a bit, pretty significantly actually. Basically, we get to a point in the story where you meet a couple of NPCs, you get a lot of world building, and basically you get a few bit of conversation. Wait, hold on. I want to Yeah, here we go. So you basically get a bit of a gameplay and you converse with Finon and Chibi back and forth and back and forth. You meet some NPCs, you get more world building, you get more lore, and there's a little bit of back and forth as well. But one thing that's really interesting and one thing that is constantly pointed out as you go through this section of the story, Don Hong is always quick to remind both the Trailblazer and other people, Finon and Chibi included, that you are keeping things from us. There is obviously some things about this world that are important to know that you are not telling us. We have questions and we don't wish to antagonize you, and we would like to be friends if possible. But we need to be looped in. We need to know about these things that are going on. Otherwise, we're in a bad spot. You're putting us in a bad position. And he's directly saying this to Finon and Tribby at the moment, right? And there's a reason why Finon and Chibi would want to act this way, right? Even though up until this point, the Trailblazers have been very accommodating, very supportive. And it's because right now they are pretty much in existence completely foreign and unknown to Amphoreus. Amphoreus is cut off from the rest of the universe, from the rest of the galaxy. This is if this is not the first time this has ever happened to Amphoreus, this is the first time in a long time that people from beyond the sky have come to Amphoreus. And so Finon and Tribby are rightfully so taking the course of action that I would expect people of their skill and caliber to take, which is yes, we want to be accommodating. We want to be friendly to these people because this could be benefit. This could be a catalyst for positive change. And eventually it does end up being that, right? The Trailblazers showing up ultimately end up being a good thing. But at the same time, they have to hold them at arm's length because if they don't, and these forces beyond the sky end up being a detriment or a potential threat, then they don't know what they're dealing with, right? So it makes sense for both Finon and Chibi to be like, okay, we're gonna be friendly with you, but until I know that I can trust you, we're not telling you everything. Especially because Amphoreus is in such a volatile state at the moment, right? But at this point, Finon definitely has gained a little bit of trust with us. We've shown up, we've directly helped out, we've made sure that people are okay. And so he tries his best to answer our questions without giving too much information still. His answers are very short, they're very curt. And I think Don Hung even directly calls it out. Let me see if he does. Maybe that was earlier, but anyway, so Tribby kind of like gives a ballad. She kind of like sings this ballad that is supposed to give us a little bit more insight to the state of the world, and it does absolutely. But it is very metaphorical. It's very there's a lot of literative language being used here. But you start to get the sense that the Trailblazers, Don Hung and the Trailblazers specifically, are starting to get a sense that okay, this world is in a volatile state, right? It's in a very fragile, very kind of very large state of I want to find a different word that isn't volatile, but that's what it is. So Droma shows up and basically everyone starts making their way to the city that has been introduced to the main cast, which is Akama, right? So you get on the giant dinosaur and it takes you to Akama. And I honestly really like this transition. So basically, up until this point, you're mostly relaxed, right? You're doing okay, right? You've introduced to these new characters, you're introduced to a couple of NPCs, and I thought that we were just gonna make our way to the story, and the story was gonna continue kind of progressing at a slow pace, that we were just gonna to that new characters were slowly gonna come to us and we were slowly going to be introduced to us. No. So we fall asleep, right? We arrive at Akama. Kalis or Stel starts to wake up, and immediately you hear in your headset. I mean, we can turn on the. Yeah, immediately after waking up, you hear music start popping off. Don Hung points to the sky, and you see a giant ball of fire just crashing down. And then, oh my god, I think this potentially is my favorite scene of the game, which is why I'm like getting really energetic about this. Just the camera work here and the cutscene is so good. just like these sudden, just bam, like this just immediately confirms like the tension and the concern that Don Hong and the Trailblazer have for the state of the world, right? Finon brandishes his sword. He points forward. He's going straight into battle. This one bastion of humanity left is immediately under attack, and you see it basically under siege and fire. And just the scope of the world, it's just so good. It's such a good way, I think, to establish the volatility and the fragility of this world and how tense things actually are. And I just really liked that storytelling, that kind of like the decision they made to storytell in that way, I guess. It's so good. Man, I don't know if I'd call it my favorite scene in 3.0, but it is definitely high up there. Just the whiplash that you feel like, okay, I'm going to sleep on this giant, dinosaur thing, and oh fuck, oh shit, fuck, where are we? Oh, we're at the city now, and it's on fire. The city is on fire. Things are not okay. But anyway, you go through combat, right? You do your thing. You dispatch of a couple of soldiers. And basically, things are bad, right? The general populace, NPCs, the citizens of Akuma, they are obviously concerned. Basically, they tell you, hey, there are these heroes called the Chrysos heirs. You need to go help them if you can, if you're willing, right? And obviously, there we go. Like, Don Hong even confirms what I was kind of talking about earlier. Like, this is direct confirmation of everything that these two were already suspecting. Oh God, this world is not in a good state. We are about to have a rough expedition. This is not gonna be like Penacony, like the start of Penacony. Like everyone like went into Penacony and they're like, yay, vacation. No, like this is like, all right, yeah, buckle up, kiddos. Like we got some shit to take care of. But yeah, so you go through, you reunite with Finon and Tribi. They're basically trying to save the world. This is the introduction to Oryx's power, right? To be able to basically turn back time. And Finon basically requests your aid in fighting back and saving Akuma. And this is where you truly gain Finon's trust, right? At this point, he's still keeping you at arm's length, but out of necessity, he's like, look, if you guys are willing to help and willing to fight alongside with us, by all means, I will accept your help. Let's go into the city. We got some things to fight. We got some shit to take care of, right? So they come in, you do another fight, you save a couple more NPCs. So this is actually important. I think these scenes of like minor battles are important because in order for the NPCs of the world to trust us, and in order for us to be able to walk around Akuma after the story, right? We needed to have a few moments of showing the general people of Amphoreus and Akuma that we are aligned with the Chrysos heirs, but that also we are capable and willing to help. So, also, one thing I really like this line: bodies everywhere. There is death. Immediately, this raises the stakes a little bit. Like, obviously, most of these are NPCs, and probably a lot of them are also just, the Titankin of Nikador. But this is war. This is real life firefight, real battle. People are dead on both sides, and that is something that we haven't gotten a lot of in Star Rail up until this point. So yeah, Trian and Trinon are here. You get the reveal that they're a triplet of all the same. Bro, the dialogue from Dun Hung in this patch is so good. I really wish it was voiced. But yeah, he's surprised, obviously. So he calls out Trian immediately calls out D, and we're like, who the hell is D? And then most people who watch trailers are like, oh, that's Mighty, right? Me, who was pronouncing Mighty as my day the whole time, I was like, who the fuck is D? So anyway, Finon's like, all right, I know how he is. I gotta go fucking take care of him. I gotta go make sure he ain't fucking things up too much. So you make your way forward. Another cutscene. Basically, this important figure within Amphoreus, the blacksmith, is about to be beheaded, and kabam, he is saved by a figure, and Finon's like, oh God. And this is our introduction to our third Chrysos heir, which is of course Mighty Mos, or better known as Mighty. One of my favorite designs in the game. I don't know if we're gonna summon for him yet, but God, look how fucking cool he is, dude. He's so fucking cool. Holy shit. Yeah, an absolute king. But you get another fight here, right? So you get introduced to Mighty. You really do get the sense that these two are rivals, right? I don't think it's antagonistic here. This initial seed to me is more like, oh ha ha ha, like banter back and forth, and like, oh, wasn't it your responsibility to be protecting citizens? And it's like, you should have been here, fine on. Like, where were you? I was doing my job. I was defeating the fucking Titankin. So yeah, it's a really nice kind of introduction to Mighty and his character. I fucking love his design. This is one of my favorite designs in the game. The only reason that's like the only thing that's really keeping me from summoning him is I have seen general like spoilers about his kit, right? His like actual gameplay, and I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of it, but who knows? Also, there's a lot of characters that I want, so obviously at this point, this is the confirmation that Finon now truly sees us as allies, as friends. He trusts us because he's seen us fight directly alongside him against Titankin, right? Even if we have ulterior motives, at the very least, he's seen that we are willing to help within our ulterior motives to help the people of Amphoreus, to help the people of Akama. So, also, confirmation here that Mighty is from Kremnos. That's big, obviously, because Kremnos obviously is a big part of this initial story. And Cartonus, the blacksmith, is introduced as well. Our first mention of Aglaya, I think. I'm pretty sure. Maybe there was another one. So, but basically, the confirmation that Nigador is in the city, and we have to go help Aglaya take care of him. Don Hung's like, you guys don't seem on friendly terms. And Final's like, yeah, well, that's how it goes sometimes. But anyway, fast forward a little bit, you get introduction to honestly one of my favorite characters in the story patch. Like if Finon and Aglaya weren't as interesting and as good as they are to me, she would be my favorite pretty easily. And she still could be my favorite. I did not expect to like Castoris so much. So she gets introduced, right? She walks in. Obviously, she's got a lot of presence because the screen turns purple. She's crippling these Titankins just by her presence alone, right? And she's got a really nice design. I honestly, when I first saw her in trailers and stuff, I wasn't the biggest fan, but within the game, her design looks a lot better. And also, she's such a sweetheart. She is so sweet. I really like Castoris. But yeah, basically she's like, hey, I will stay here. I will take care of the city and the Titankin that are invading. Please go help Aglaya take care of Nikodor. But yeah, introduction to Castoris. Amazing character. You do get this kind of small scene here between a Titankin and Finon and the rest of the cast, where it kind of gives a little bit more context to kind of like the philosophy behind the Titankin of Nigador and Castrum Kremnos, and you really start to get the sense that okay, kind of the way Amphoreus works and the Titans and the faith that people have in their respective Titans, right? It's very similar to the Eon system that we have outside of Amphoreus, right? In the general galaxy and universe of Star Rail. It's very focused on philosophy and ideals and beliefs. So you kind of this scene is a good way to kind of contextualize that and kind of showcase it. So another battle, right? Because this is a game, you have to play the game, and you move forward. This is where you depart with Castoris, and you and Finon go to basically the main area of Akama, which are the baths or the kind of the headquarters for the Crisis heirs. And this is where like you finally do get the like confirmation that like okay, Finon has his trust within us. He's seen what we are capable of. He's seen what we are willing to do, and he sees kind of like in our eyes, right? He's very perspective. He's very perceptive, right? He sees that we are good people and that we are, even if we have ulterior motive, he can trust our general heart and disposition and our beliefs and ideals. So he's like, all right, let's go fight together. So, yep, you make your way into the baths, and you are basically preparing to fight Nikador. And one thing that I actually really like about this scene is Finon's voice acting. Like, listen to this.
A day of peaceful. I commend. Stay strong. Recall your convictions and everything you hold dear. If you can't do that, then think of death. For doing so might actually keep you alive.
The voice acting in this story patch is really good, obviously, and compared to the voice acting before, it's just as good, right? But I really like the voice acting of this patch because I think they did such a good job at recognizing the stakes and the tone of this particular story. You guys know that one big thing about me with storytelling is the tone, right? You know, what's the color? You know, what are the color choices? What's the voice acting like? Is it strong, aggressive, or is it slow and quiet? You know, what's the setting? You know, what's the architecture? Basically, when I'm watching or playing this story, you know, what's the general feeling that I get? And so far, everything in Amphoreus has kind of communicated to the player and to me that the tone of Amphoreus should be tense and full of conflict, not necessarily aggressive, but also like it's Amphoreus is at war, right? Its people are dying. It's on its last bastion, right? And even though there's like a semblance of good life left in Akama, things are bleak. And I think the voice acting from Finon, and you also hear it from Mighty as well later in the story, it's really kind of aggressive. It's shouting, it's yelling, it's full of conviction and resolve, but also concern because at any point in time in this story, someone could die, right? And whereas something with Penacony, it's different, right? But Penacony's did the same exact thing. Penacony's is more full of mystery and intrigue and a similar kind of tension, but in a different way, right? In the voice acting there communicates that, I think. It's kind of very kind of like what's the right word? Very rhythmical, very kind of like mischievous, I guess, in a certain sense, very distant, right? And you also get some very deep emotional moments in Penacony as well. But I think the style of Penacony and the kind of the voice acting direction that they have here in the story so far is really good. Cutscene, basically, our three lads walk in, and oh shit, there's the man himself, Nikador. Amazing design, comes down but like a bullet flying from the sky. And get ready for battle, because you're about to face a god.
Weaker. More distorted.
Right, there we go. More we'll find on voice acting. The music is amazing. We're gonna mute again though, sorry. But yeah, you fight Nikador. It's a really good introduction, and then you get my favorite character so far of Amphoreus. I'm actually going to turn on the volume for the cutscenes. So Finon, again, showing his skill and capability to combat a Titan directly. Gold thread descends from the sky, and there she is in all her glory. And bam! Bro, we got some impact frames. Let's look at that again. Woo! It's so cool. And there's Mom. She steps down so gracefully. Oh, and the fucking voice, it's so good. So soothing. But it's such a good introduction to Aglaya. It's so ethereal, so beautiful, right? It's so in command, right? Like, unlike, like, look at this scene again, right? Finon he's very tense. He's fighting with everything he has. And Aglaya is just like, she's just like graceful. Go, move. Finon just boom, full on rush, cuts him down, and then she's just like, oh, I'm gonna step down so gracefully, right? It really communicates just, she is the experienced, seasoned Chrysos, whereas Phynon is kind of like the newer, young, talented, but cocky Chrysos. I always use cocky to describe Phynon. It's not the right word because Phynon is very humble. He's very confident. That's the word I'm looking for. But yeah, we get introduction to my favorite character so far in Amphoreus. It's really close. It's either her or Phynon, but Aglaya is so interesting to me. So this is a good kind of segue to something I wanted to talk about at the start of the stream that I just kind of forgot to. So I did kind of immerse myself in kind of the general community's opinion of the story. And a lot of it was positive, but a decent amount of the reception to the 3.0 story was a little bit negative in some cases. Some of it, in fact, most of it, I want to say, is directed to the storytelling of not necessarily the story of Amphoreus, but really the storytelling of Honkai Star Rail as a whole, right? And that's kind of like the camera angles, right? The different gestures that characters can make, right? Short cutscenes. Why don't we have longer cutscenes? Why don't we have more cutscenes, right? Stuff like that, right? Maybe a little bit too much exposition or dialogue, but I really like the amount of dialogue and exposition Star Rail has always used, so that's never been an issue with me. So, but yeah, basically like the little things, the little details that go into making a story that much better, right? And honestly, I kind of am starting to agree a little bit. So this is one of the main criticisms I have with the Amphoria story. It is the fact that with the scope of the story being expanded so significantly, right? This story we know is lasting 7 to 8 story patches. We know that this world in Forest is going to be critical to the development of many characters. We should probably be doing some new things at this point, right? I had this same criticism with Penacony as well, but the reason I think I was fine with it on Penacony is Penacony does do a couple of new things. They have a like they have like the dreaming, right? They have the aspect of like the different doors and puzzles and the vertical nature of everything. And I did feel like Penacony used a lot of the same storytelling elements that they typically use before Penacony. But to me, it wasn't as overstayed and it still felt fresh enough and also introduced a couple of new things. I think with Amphoreus, yeah, I would like some new camera angles. I would like some new character gestures and some new character expressions. Um, I would like, a couple more emphasis and more focus on the finer details of storytelling because like we're in 3.0, right? This is 3.0. I would expect the game to have made a little bit of improvements, not just to the gameplay, because there's been a lot of very good quality of life development within the game. I would like for that same energy to be directed to the story, right? For me, you guys want to know my main criticism? I want more expressive faces. That's really it. I feel like the faces and Star Rail need a little bit more expression. The eyes maybe can get smaller. The eyebrows can furrow a little bit more. Maybe wider smiles. Um, it might be difficult for them to do because of the way the models work within the game, right? But I don't think it's too much to ask. Maybe a little bit of gestures, right? Maybe different forms of eye contact, different hand movements, stuff like that. So that was one of the main forms of criticism that I saw. Another big form of criticism I saw was of Glaia's character, and honestly, I don't understand it. There is one point of criticism that I do agree with on Aglaia's character, and we'll talk about it when we get to it. But I honestly don't really understand the hate towards this character. This character is so interesting to me, and she is so well presented to us and very well developed, except for one particular scene. We'll get there eventually. But just the idea of her character, the execution of her character, I think is honestly pretty damn good. Is she the objectively best written character in the story or most well executed character of the story? No, she's not. I think Phynon is. I think Phynon is the so far in 3.0 the most well written, the most well executed character in the game, or not in the game, in Amphoreus. But I am Aglaya is not that far behind, and also at the moment she's just more interesting to me. Like just her general like character arc and like her character archetype and where it's going. But I think eventually Finon is going to overtake Aglaya. But you get introduced to Aglaya. She's very receptive. But one thing that comes with that kind of like friendliness is immediately both the player and Don Hung and Trailblazer, you get the sense that Aglaya is in control. She is different from the rest of the Crassus heirs that we have kind of met. She is steady, calm, mature, like, in control, commanding. And even if she is friendly, you definitely get the sense of that she's extremely skilled, right? So anyway, you converse with Aglaya. She tells Finon, like, hey, go help other people. I will entertain our guests, basically. So, but one of the most important things that you get with Aglaya here is obviously the introduction of the Trailblaze to Aglaya, but also through Aglaya to the rest of Amphoreus. But also, Aglaya is more willing to, now that everything has happened, and I'm sure Finon would have been willing to do this as well, but she's willing to give out more information now, right? She's willing to share more about the world than anything else. And so that's exactly what happens. She takes you to the baths. By the way, really quickly, this is my favorite area in the game so far. Just the whole game, not just Amphoreus. The baths are so fucking cool. I just love this area. I was really battling over whether I liked Golden Hour or this area more, but I do think I like this area more. So there, one win Amphoreus has over Penacony, but I think that's going to be one of the very few wins it has. But yeah, basically you go into the water with Aglaya, and you get a this isn't a good example of I think what people were complaining about. You get introduced to a lot of the world building, a lot of the history, and a lot of the lore on Amphoreus, but it's just exposition through a butterfly. Like I would have just rather have heard this to us through Aglaya. Like I would have, like it would have. I think they felt like using like a character to exposit on it would have felt cheap. And Aglaya does exposit a bit later in a scene that comes right after this. But honestly, like if you had just had this conversation like in two chairs, it would have been better, I think. So it's stuff like this, scenes like this that I think a lot of people are criticizing, and to a certain extent, I can understand, right? And to a certain extent, I even agree with it. So we're gonna fast forward through everything though, but it's basically the introduction to the Titans, Amphoreus, right? The Titans of creation, Titans of fates, the order in which they came in. You guys know the drill. So we're gonna fast we're gonna fast forward through this scene. I want to get to this scene that's really important here. Bro, we are only an hour and 30 minutes in. I have to accelerate this. Thankfully, a lot of the story that comes after this is going to be gameplay, right? So we can fast forward through this. So basically, Aglaya's like, hey, we're gonna go to a different location that's exclusive to the Crassus heirs. Basically, I'm gonna give you even more in-depth explanation of what's going on. But I can only take one of you because there's this council, and if I take both of you, it's gonna be a bit disrespectful and I might get criticized by this council, right? So Don Hung's like, hey, you go up on ahead, I'll stay down here. So one thing I saw some criticism here that like Aglaya basically forced a promise onto you. Yes, I agree. She didn't really ask for consent on like the kind of like the exchange that led to the promise, but she does ask for your consent on whether or not you want to go into the bath with her. And she does make it clear that she is expecting bare honesty. Like she tells you straight up, like, hey, I'm not gonna force you to bathe with me and have this conversation. And this conversation is gonna be one that I expect to be truthful and honest. So are you willing to trust me on this conversation? Now, if she were to be completely honest and completely truthful, she would have told us, like, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna use this power of mine, and we're gonna tell each other the truth, and we're gonna be bound by a promise that will hopefully guarantee our honesty to one another. So that would have been her being completely truthful, but she does warn you, basically. Also, mom. She is absolute mom. But basically, yeah, she is going to tell you not just about the backstory on Amphoreus, but also backstory of her and backstory of the Chrysos heirs. Absolute mom. So basically, you converse with her on the current state of Amphoreus, the current state of the Chrysos heirs, what basically is impending, to the people of Amphoreus and the world, and what their mission is, what they are fighting for, right? So she gives you some very particular information. I would be willing to bet that not a lot of the people of Amphoreus know the information that she's telling us at this moment, right? But basically, in exchange for this information, and I think we skipped past it, unfortunately. But she asks you to promise you something, basically. To not tell the people of Akama about the worlds beyond the sky. One really key thing about here is I'm not sure if this might be wrong, right? But to me, this line implies that Aglaya already knew about a world beyond the sky. That this is something that she has known for a long time, and that our introduction to Amphoreus, so like our arrival to the world, is not something that she's completely cut off by. So that's interesting. So basically, she tells you to make this promise in exchange for the information that she gave you, and she gives you this initial perspective on why. Now, again, if she was being completely truthful and honest here, she would have told us what she tells us later on, right? That people have tried to go up to the sky before and leave Amphoreus, and they have been shot down by a Titan and killed. So she has very good reasoning on why we shouldn't tell people about this, because we don't want people to try and leave. Like, if they know that there's a world of Amphoreus that exists out there, right? And it would make sense, right? From a general person's perspective, like, oh, Amphoreus is on its last legs. We're probably all going to die. And if there's worlds out there that exist, why would I not leave and go to those other worlds that are potentially more peaceful and not in constant battle and conflict? Well, the reason why you shouldn't try to do that is because if you try, you will die for certainty. Fucking Aquila is gonna shoot you down like the fucking dragon or whatever bird she is, and you will it's gonna be bad. So basically, Aglaya, from her perspective as a leader, as the protector of Akama, she is acting well within capacity. Yes, is she a bit paranoid? Absolutely. And her kind of binding us to this promise is a little bit of extortive, right? It's extortion to a certain extent. But she is also, you can tell, not a bad person. She warns you before getting into the bath that she expects complete honesty out of you. And she also tells you that, hey, I have good reason for asking this promise of you, and I gave you something in return. Like, she's the first one to extend something to you. And to us, the trailblazers, right? That information might not seem that important to us, right? But to them, you have to understand, to them, giving out that information is risky, right? Even if Finon trusts us, even if Aglaya trusts us to a certain extent, that is very sensitive information, and giving that out is potentially risky. So she's taking a risk already, and all she asks for us in exchange, even if it is a bit extortive, is just a simple promise like, hey, please do not tell this to other people. In all fairness, us, the Trailblazers, we do our best to honor that promise, but unfortunately, doesn't end up being the case. So, anyway, we go meet back with Dan Heng. Dan Heng obviously calls this out, which we've already known. Something is off. Something is very off. Not just on the surface level, but something is off. And also Don Hong. Also, this doesn't help, right? I think what's really interesting about kind of the character interactions between the Chrysos heirs and the Trailblazers is that I don't think the Trailblazers really understand the extent to how the how bad the state of this world currently is. Like I feel like they're still like, and obviously rightfully so, they're still more concerned about fuck, we've been separated from the rest of our family, from the rest of the actual Express, and why does this world feel like a prison? Right? They have advanced technology, so why would discussing beyond the sky be taboo? Well, the reason it's taboo, Don Hung, if you think about it more, is what if it's dangerous to leave the sky? And honestly, I think it's a good example of like each of these two different factions, right? The Chrysos heirs and the Astral Express, they can't truly understand one another because Amphoreus has been locked off from the rest of the world. And so it's really difficult for Don Hung and the Trailblazer to understand the Chrysos heirs and why they act the way they do. And it's really difficult for the Chrysos heirs to understand the Astral Express and why they act the way they do, because the situations that they've lived in and for so long are so different, right? So Aglaya acts perfectly within reason, and so do the Astral Express perfectly within reason, and it leads to conflict. And that's what makes good storytelling. It's when you're able to create dynamic scenes, not just of conflict. It doesn't have to be conflict. It could be just regular dialogue or backstory or just, character dynamic building, right? Conflict, though, is a great way to do it. It's when you've set up a world or multiple different worlds and a setting where people and characters with their personalities and attitudes and their backstory and the way they were raised, right? When they act according to how they believe they should act, and another set of characters act according to what they believe is the correct way to act, and that leads to conflict, that's just good. That's just humanity. That's good storytelling. So what I'm trying to say here is I think the character writing in Forest is actually really good, and I this is one of the reasons I can't really understand the criticism against Agalaya. So, but there is a scene later on that I do think is worthy criticism against Agalaya. But anyway, despite our skepticism, right, we agree, like, all right, whatever, we can keep the promise, right? So we basically go out, we do our thing, we meet with Tribby again. A lot of this is just like regular exposition, developing character relationships with each of the Crisis heirs. We meet up with Finon again. Don Hung gets his spear back. We're ready to go. Right, we're ready to battle. So and we also meet up with um, sorry, Castoris again. Um, and she basically this I honestly, out of all the kind of like scenes that we get here with Tribby and Finon, Castoris is my favorite. You really get the sense that even though we met her in a very like tense state, like she's like using her powers to like cripple, potentially kill various Titankin, you get the sense from this scene that yeah, she's just a regular girl. She's kind, considerate, caring to a certain extent. She is quiet and reserved, absolutely. But you can tell she's got emotions within her. She's not this soulless reaper that just walks around. No, she a lot of people have likened her to Firefly. I can kind of understand that, right? Because you get the sense that they are more emotionally resonant characters compared to a lot of the other characters in their respective story, right? We haven't gotten a lot of vulnerability with Finon or Tribby or Agalaya or Mighty. And just like in Pentaconi, we didn't really get a lot of vulnerability with Aventurine, Acheron, um, Robin, Sunday at the start of the story. We later got a lot of vulnerability from each of those characters later, which is what makes Pentaconi so good. But the character that's most emotionally resonant in Pentaconi is Firefly, and from the very start, right? So that's why I think a lot of people are big fans of Firefly and Castoris, not just because like waifu shitbait, right? It's because they are emotional characters, and compared to the rest of the cast, who at first maybe they're not as emotionally resonant, we endear ourselves to them pretty quickly. So yeah, Castoris, amazing character scene with her here. We feed the dramas. It's a nice scene. Like she even laughs at a certain point, I think. If you hold on, let me see. Does CG Inferno do what I did? Do they eat? Let me see. Because like, if you eat the feed in front of the dramas, okay, so you didn't do it. You get a nice scene where Castoris laughs, and I think it's a really good scene. And like, yeah, like her power naturally has probably distanced her from other humans, and the reason she's so quiet and reserved is because she has very few experiences with social contact. Because if she gets close to other people, especially regular people, she could kill them, and that's like it's tragic. You even if she doesn't expressly state it, and you get the sense that she, later in this story that yes, it is tragic. You get the first introduction of that feeling here. Anyway, basically, oh, we skipped the scene with we don't need to go back. Basically, you meet this NPC. I forget what his name is. Is it drum? Actually, we can go find him really quick. Yeah, right here. The Mionis, basically. He takes a picture of you, effectively, and without our permission, because we give him March's camera, right, to take a picture of me and Don Hung. Without our permission, he goes through the rest of the pictures on the camera, and he obviously, through that action, finds out about our experiences from before and that there are other worlds beyond the sky of Amphoreus. D does this completely without our permission. If he had asked us, hey, this is a pretty cool device, is it okay if I, rummage through it, if I look through it? We would have said fuck no, because there are things on that camera that we don't want you to know. And that would have been a healthy, communication. But no, Demion is just like, I'm going to do this because I want to. So, and not only does he do that, right? He goes on to fucking announce it to the whole world, right? Oh, wrong. No, not quite there. So you travel through, yeah. So basically, after finding out what is on our camera without our direct permission, he goes on and starts to just exposit to everyone about, oh, this fucking land beyond the skies. And due to his action, rumors start to spread about an existence beyond the skies of Amphoreus. And this is very bad. Obviously, it's not our fault. Like, we didn't do this on purpose. It was an accident. But also, yeah, negligence does happen. And unfortunately, I completely am on Aglaya's side here later. So anyway, we'll keep going. Their reaction's like, oh fuck, we fucked. It's so good. But like, yeah, when you make a promise to someone, not only do you have to have the intent of not breaking that promise, you should also be attentive enough to where your actions might not accidentally break that promise as well. And I think this, obviously, this realization is like, oh no, yeah, we fucked up. But I think a big reason why Don Hung and the Trailblazer weren't as attentive to, potentially accidentally breaking Aglaya's promise is I still don't feel that each of these characters understands the true kind of stakes within Amphoreus, right? They've only seen one battle, right? And they've seen people die, but this is something they're not, they're still not completely, they're not used to, right? They've seen battle before. They've seen people potentially die before. Who knows? But right, this promise to Aglaya, yes, they want to keep the promise, but it isn't the most important thing to them, right? Because I don't think they really understand the gravity of the situation in Amphoreus. But most importantly, they don't understand how serious the situation is in Amphoreus to the rest of the Chrysos heirs. The Chrysos heirs are living basically in a constant state of tension. This is extremely important to them, especially Aglaya, right? Because she's the leader. And I think what happens later down the line is what truly makes Don Hung and the Trailblazer realize, oh, fuck, we need to take this as seriously as they do. But yeah, so basically, obviously not our fault. it's Damionis' fault. He does this. We go around. We try to squash the rumors. Basically, we do so mostly unsuccessfully. We meet this fucking lion who is the one who spread the rumors, right? Damionis still, I would say, is mostly at fault because he's the one who fucking talked about it in the first place. But Verax Leo is the first one to be like, hey, this is pretty interesting information. Let me spread it, right? But anyway, Mighty shows up. This is the first time we've seen him in a while, and he's basically like, hey, you fucking lion. Why don't you fucking stop being a bitch ass and fight me, right? Stop fucking being a gossip spreader. You also talk to Trippy. Trippy is mostly unaware of what happened with the rumors, I think. Or either she is aware or she's not saying anything because she knows Aglaya is going to confront us, right? So basically, we meet up with Aglaya again. Everything seems fine. Before this, there is a small scene between Don Hung and a Trailblazer that's like, hey, we're not gonna bring it up if we can help it, right? Let's just keep quiet for now. And if they confront us about it, we'll tell them the truth. So, and Aglaya, upon meeting her, is mostly, to our knowledge, unaware. It doesn't seem like she's been made aware of the rumors. So we're just like, whew, okay, phew. She hasn't realized it yet. But she is gonna take us into this special place. Didn't mean to turn it on. Basically, where the rest of the crisis heirs go to submit the core flame. When they finish their expeditions or their missions. So she takes us to this space. You do get a nice cutscene where you're just like, whoa, holy shit, this is cool. Aglaya walks in, and I am going to turn on the volume here because this is the start of one of my favorite scenes in the story.
You now stand at the heart of this world. Now, I require your honesty.
Yep. And there's Castoris. Obviously, we learn later down the line that she doesn't really want to do this. She doesn't really want to be here, but she trusts Aglaya's judgment well enough. So yeah, Don Hung asks what I think anyone would ask in this situation. Why are you holding us captive? So you can respond in either way, basically. So this is a big reason why I'm not the biggest fan of being able to select your dialogue choice in games. Now, there are games that do this well, right? Where you can have different experiences of story, right? Based on your selections in the story, right? Basically branching story paths. I think branching story paths that leave it up to the player are extremely difficult to do well. And the reason for that is because you basically have to design characters, not just the main cast, but side characters as well, that have to be flexible enough characters to react to whatever dialogue choice that you choose, that, it doesn't break immersion, right? And I honestly, most of the time, think it's more of a detriment than not. I would rather just have a defined character whose dialogue choices, whose dialogue, not choices, right? Whose dialogue is defined by the writer, by the creator of the story, and so that they can design the characters the way they want to, right? So you can make rigid, strict characters that are not flexible aren't necessarily bad characters. In fact, I feel like you need a couple of those in the story. But Star Rail is an example of a story that has dialogue choices, and unfortunately, I think it shouldn't. So let me explain. So I feel like it started with Genshin, but I feel like with Genshin and Star Rail and even Zenless Zone Zero to a certain extent, I feel like Hoyoverse originally started making these gacha games and designing these gacha games with the kind of, I think they went into it thinking that the main characters of each game, so right, Ether and Lumine from Genshin, Kalis and Stell from Honkai Star Rail, and Wise and Bell from Zenless Zone Zero. I think they went into creating Genshin and the rest of these games as well during development, thinking that these main characters weren't going to be that impactful of characters, right? That they were mostly going to serve as an avatar for the story of the game. But I think they realized pretty quickly with Genshin early on that that wasn't going to work. That if they wanted to tell a deeply resonant story, similar to what they did with Honkai Impact the Third, because Honkai Impact the Third is an amazingly emotional, well written story, right? And I think they wanted to get that same quality of storytelling with their new three gacha games. But if they want to do that, it's so hard to tell an emotionally resonant story, especially in a game with this many characters, with just a blank slate MC. It's almost impossible. Why does Honkai Impact the Third work so well? Well, because Kiana is a real character set and defined by the writers of the story. I think there are some cases where you can choose your dialogue, right? There are some cases where the dialogue is like, choosable, and who knows? Who knows? But Kiana is the main character of Honkai Impact the Third, and she doesn't have stuff like this regularly. And if she does, it's more rare in Star Rail and Genshin. So I think what they had to do with Zenless Zone Zero, I actually don't really see it that much. With Star Rail and Genshin, I definitely saw it at the beginning of their games, where they started with what is mostly like a avatar, right? A blank slate MC. And the MC has slowly but surely developed into an actual character, right? A character with a personality, with an attitude, with a backstory and experiences, right? But as you further define your main character and your MC, and you move away from that blank slate, right? From that avatar, these dialogue choices become harder and harder to do. They become more of a detriment to not just the main character, but the rest of the characters in your story. And I honestly, as much as I am a fan of these dialogue choices and why they can be fun at times, I would just prefer just a script, just a standard script. Everyone experiences the same conversations, the same dialogue. And I think this scene is an example of why having these choices can make storytelling so difficult. Because this scene walks a very fine line between being amazing or very bad. And I think that's why a lot of people negatively reacted to this scene and Aglaya as a character. And why like people like me loved this scene because we had different dialogue choices and different perspectives to these characters. So I think it's okay to have different perspectives on characters, and it's okay to have, different reactions to events in a story. But when people have different experiences to a story, then you're going to get that much more volatility in your community reaction. So, for example, as you go through this scene, keep in mind that when I went into this scene, I was mostly on Aglaya's side here. I was like, we fucked up, we broke our promise, and I understand her perspective from this completely, right? So I made my dialogue choices in reaction to that, with that perspective. So I chose this one right here, as expected, because we should have expected this. We should have expected to be confined because we broke our promise. Aglaya doesn't know if she can trust us or not. And because we came from another world, we are a threat now, right? So just keep that in mind. But yeah, basically Dan Heng's like, what the hell is going on? This is an important line. This is no laughing matter. This is an interrogation. This is the moment on, I think, from this point on, I'm pretty sure that Dan Heng and the Trailblazer are like, oh, fuck. We did not take this as seriously as we needed to. We need to now, see the stakes of this world from the same perspective as these characters. Otherwise, we are going to be in a bad spot, right? So Aglaya is basically like, yeah, this is no laughing matter, interrogation. You broke your promise to me. I now need to re-verify my trust with you to a certain extent. And keep in mind also, another reason this is so serious to her, we broke our promise immediately. It was not like she found out about this later, right? No, a few hours after a conversation, immediately we broke our promise. So that either shows two things, right? Either the fact that, or actually it shows three things, right? It shows either we broke our promise intentionally, she can't trust us, and we are potentially hostile forces, right? Or number two, we do not understand, right, the gravity of the situation, and we broke our promise through negligence, right? Or because we didn't see their progress as that important. Or number three, we broke our promise because we were not capable enough to keep it, right? We were just dumb or stupid. Each of those three options is bad for her, right? If we are dumb and stupid, then she shouldn't trust us to help with the Christos Heirs mission because we're not capable people. If we didn't, if we broke our promise because we did so accidentally through negligence, well, she shouldn't trust us because it shows that we don't care about their mission as much as we do, as much as they do. And if we broke our promise intentionally, even worse. It means that we are potentially not going to help their mission and even impede it. So it makes sense for her to take this reaction, right? So yeah, Don Hung says like, yeah, you are aware of our transgression, but we did so to save a life. Now here's a big part of what, you know, a mistake that I, you know, that I don't think the mistake was saving Damionis's life. I think the mistake was the moment that they handed Damionis the camera. Now again, it wasn't our fault. The fault lies with Damionis. He should have asked for our consent to look through this device. And if he had done so, we would have been able to stop this promise from being broken, right? So it's not this that really ended up hurting or breaking Aglaya's trust. It's the fact that Damionis found out in the first place, right? So, and Aglaya acknowledges that, like, yes, you know, you did so within good reason, but even so, I need to be paranoid here. Now, is she overly paranoid? Yes. And this is what makes this good story writing and good character writing, is the fact that each of our characters are acting well within reason, given their situation, right? And it creates natural conflict, just like in the real world. This is just good character writing for both Don Hung, the Trailblazer, and Aglaya. And Castoris as well. So, there we go. So Castoris, obviously here, she will be our executioner, potentially, if we don't answer questions correctly. And yeah, so this is our problem right here. Yeah, this is where we fucked up. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this is something that Aglaya should have done to us from the beginning. This is where her, even though she told us, like, you know, the truth almost completely in the baths to Trailblazer, she fucked up as well. She should have told us that a big reason why the Astral Express don't understand the true stakes of the world is because they haven't been told that. Like, we've only seen it and we've been told little bits and pieces of how bad this world state truly is, but they need to tell us everything. If they don't tell us everything, if they don't completely trust us, if they want us to be on the same team, then we might make a mistake out of ignorance. And that's part of what happened here. So yeah, Don Hung is complete in his right here to say this. And again, Aglaya is complete in her right to act the way she's acting. Yeah, exactly how grave of a crime have we committed? And Aglaya acknowledges, yes, reasonable request and my oversight for not telling you. Okay, this is just good dialogue. This is just good character writing. And this scene is so good. It genuinely is. I don't understand why people are criticizing this scene. I don't. Now, if you are not criticizing the scene and just saying I don't like this scene because I don't like Aglaya, that's a different story. If you don't like the scene because you love the Trailblazer and Don Hung and you feel offended by what Aglaya did, that's perfectly okay. That's more than fine, right? If you just don't like Aglaya because of what she's doing, because she's antagonizing us, right? That's fine. You don't even if you understand where she's coming from and you still don't like her, perfectly fine. That's your experience of the story, right? More than fine. Just like it's perfectly fine for me to like Aglaya, and maybe that I'm being too trusting of Aglaya. Maybe I'm giving Aglaya too much of a benefit of a doubt, right? But saying that the scene is poorly written, I think that to me is going a bit too far because I just think the scene is just well written. And yet now she goes on to explain what she probably should have explained to us in the first place. The fact that there is considerable danger if people try to leave Amphoreus. And if we had known that, maybe would have taken the promise more seriously and not been as careless. So obviously, what dialogue chose? Yes, I agree with that. And actives, right? They're not under constant watch and tension like the people of Amphoreus are. Yes, this is true, and Don Hung is right to believe in this, but Aglaya cannot believe this, right? She does not have the option to think this way because of the way she was raised in the world that she grew up in. Humanity longing for the sky is something that she thinks is wrong. So now this is an important line as well. This shows her paranoia. This, I think, is a very important line. That order can only be topped by the Chrysos heirs. That might be true. It could be true that the Chrysos heirs are the only ones that can save this world. But saying that it's the only path forward is dangerous, right? It really goes to show the limiting perspective that she might have. And that limiting perspective comes from the fact that obviously she's been pushed into it by the state of the world, right? But yeah, she's paranoia. She's paranoid, not paranoia. So yeah, 3 steps. She gets closer than 3 steps, they will die. Yeah, basically Don Hung says, as long as our consciousness are clear, we'll be fine. So one thing I'm interested to see here, because I actually answered as honestly as I thought I could, and I basically barely passed. So he chose the last one. Okay. So this is a good example of like, if you choose that dialogue choice, yes, it's funny, and I'm sure some people would prefer that experience. But this scene is meant to be serious. It's meant to be taken with a lot of gravity, right? And to respond with a joke there, I think to me, gives people completely different experiences from this scene, right? For some people, this scene could now, the immersion could be broken, right? And they could be taking it a bit more casually. But for me, who tried to respond as honestly as I could, I think I responded with number two. Like I got the way I interpreted this scene and the way you interpreted this scene is very different. And different interpretations to storytelling is fine as long as you experience mostly the same thing. So allowing different dialogue choices again can create volatility in your story. So again, if you choose number two, I did not choose number two. So again, very different. Immediately, CG Inferno, the person who uploaded the video, he's getting a different perspective to this scene than I am, and that's what these dialogue choices have some pros, but this is an example of the cons, right? Also, but this is interesting. He chose that choice, and I actually haven't seen this line. This is I think this is a good line. You've let your anger consume you. A step will be recorded. This is robotic, right? She should understand that anger is within us and potentially that it could influence our choices, right? So this is again, this is an interrogation, but it's a very biased interrogation, and this line shows that, right? But again, this interrogation is biased for good reason. Again, more good story writing. I think I chose that one. Unfortunately, I kind of regret choosing that one. I should have chosen one of the other ones. Also, I forgot about this. Yeah, she's able to recognize the Celeron. Yeah, I think I chose this one because I felt bad for choosing like the joke answer in the previous one, so I wanted to choose like the most serious answer I could choose potentially here. But yeah, I didn't expect it to be taken as a threat, but I could absolutely see why she took it as a threat. So yeah. Ooh. Okay. So yeah, I think I failed as well, right? Or is this different? I don't know. I'll have to check. But anyway, basically, Finon is about to come in and save her asses. Oh no, this is different. I don't think I saw this. So yeah. Okay. Well, obviously, we learn later down the line that talk about burning bridges. I mean, yeah. But like my thing is, I wish. So I don't think I experienced this. I wish that he didn't experience this. Or what I'm trying to say is, I wish that me and this person who uploaded the video experienced the same thing, and then we could then make our interpretations on the scene. It's like obviously the way he responded to this scene is vastly different to the way I responded to this scene, and now it would be much easier for his perspective on Aglaya's character to be much more negative than my perspective to Aglaya's character. So anyway, I'm gonna stop harping on the different dialogue choices. Okay, so I did see this line. Yeah. Again, just adding to how paranoid she actually is. And this is a bit cruel to Castoris as well. Like she doesn't want to do this, right? I'll have to go back and watch my stream to see what happens. Oh damn, so we didn't die immediately. No, I don't remember this scene at all. What is story again? Just okay, that's actually really funny. But yeah, Finon basically comes in to save you, regardless of what happens. Like he vouches for you, basically. This is interesting. I'm happy to see this from like a different perspective. But also keep in mind that yeah, Finon is able to vouch for us because he has had more time with us than Aglaya has had. He's seen us fight. He's seen the expression on our faces and in our eyes as we fought for the well-being of Amphoreus and Akama. He's got much more reason to trust us than Aglaya does, which shows, you know, his loyalty and his heart, and but it also shows again Aglaya's paranoia, but also her inhumanity. The fact that she is obviously not as emotionally resonant as to other people, or as empathy is the word I'm looking for. She's not a very empathetic person compared to Finon. Yep. So Finon basically vouches for us, and Castoris as well, because Castoris obviously sees that this. So Aglaya, Castoris might trust Aglaya's judgment and her capability, right? And she also respects her as a person, absolutely, because Aglaya is a good person. But this decision is one rooted in paranoia, and she Castoris, I think, recognizes this as an what Don Hung says here, a very unreasonable execution. I think it's reasonable for Aglaya to interrogate the Astral Express members and to obviously punish them, but death is a bit too harsh. And I think Castoris, this line here adds to that, is that death should not be used so easily as a punishment. It should be something reserved for, you know, tranquility and saying goodbye to your life peacefully. And so I think this is what shakes Aglaya. It's not just Finon vouching for the Trailblazers. It's Castoris' perspective on the fact that, yes, Aglaya, I think that you are doing, I think I agree with your decision here, but I don't agree with the extremity of your decision here. And so this is what ultimately shakes her out of her state of paranoia. Yeah, and high-handed, great word to use. So And again, anytime Aglaya messes up, she fucks up, right? She acknowledges it. She does. And it shows her maturity. And also, yes, good. If Aglaya had consulted, this implies that Aglaya consulted Castoris about us. Potentially, trying to see what she needed to do, what action she needed to take. And maybe if Castoris had told her openly, from the start what she thought of us and that we could be trusted, she wouldn't have had to take such extremities. And what makes this scene so good is you really see each character. Aglaya, Phynon, Castoris, and even Don Hung and the Trailblazer all act within reason. They all act according to their characters, and obviously it leads to some conflict, but also it leads to resolution. And to me, that is just good story writing. To be able to move the plot forward through the natural actions taken by the characters. So this is where the scene in the Vortex of Genesis ends, really. Yeah, but Don Hong's like, hey, you hold on, like we will not help if under these circumstances. Like it's, and also he specifies it's Lady Aglaya that that caused this. But this is also a bluff. We cannot depart. Well, I guess technically, yeah, we could. We could leave Akama, but not Amphoreus. But yeah, Don Hong is right to call this out, by the way. Aglaya is trying to move past this a bit too quickly. I don't think intentionally. I think she's moving past it because she doesn't see it. I don't think she realizes just how offended we are because of how how much distance she has put between herself and her humanity. So basically, yeah. And she tells us that we have the freedom to go. Basically, if we like, if we cannot trust her, then by all means, that we're able to leave. And ultimately, we decide to stay because of Phynon's words, I guess. And all like again, this is good character writing once again. So Castoris, I think, realized that because she didn't share her true opinions of Aglaya, Aglaya was taking a very extremist stance. And instead of going to Aglaya and trying to be completely honest with her and vulnerable to her about, yes, I think we can trust these people based on how I feel about them, she reached out to someone else to take care of it. And so I think this is, again, this is within her character, but like each of these four characters is flawed. Aglaya is flawed, but they make up for their flaws, right? I think I did chose that. Yeah, and then this is where when you get the kind of like more kind of like more focus on the fact that she is not obviously very inhumane, but both figuratively and literally. She is a demigod, and because of that, she has lost touch with her humanity. So, the astral zodiac. Oh, so there's an actual name for it. Okay, cool. Okay. So yeah, Phynon gives you the full, even more truth that again should have been told to us from the beginning. And you get even more lore, more world building. And basically Phynon is trying to do his best to repair the trust between you and the Chrysos heirs. Because not only have we lost trust in Aglaya, but we've also lost trust in the Chrysos heirs. Rightfully so. So you can like read about the different titans, right? And this is where Phynon is really like, he's now extending, a hand to you, but not from the perspective of a Chrysos heir, but he's doing so from like as a genuine human, as a person. as a friend, hopefully, because he at this point he has no other option, right? Like all the tension from the beginning of the story, the constant kind of distance that's been put between the Astral Express and the Crossroads heirs from both parties has come. It's like, it's culminated into potentially an execution, right? And so the only thing left he has to do if he wants to regain our trust is to be honest, sincere, and genuine, and approach us as a fellow human, as not just a Crisis heir, but as someone who just wants our trust because he thinks we are good people. And I think he even says so as a matter of fact. And yeah, he goes on to say, if there are any doubts and concerns that you have, right, let me do my best to answer them. Me, myself, and Castoris. So. And yeah, he acknowledges there is a gap now. There was a gap before, but the gap has only been made larger by the fact that Aglaya obviously did what she did, but also the fact that Finon and Castoris and Mighty and Tribi have not been completely honest with us. They have not been sincere and genuine. They have not tried. They want us to be involved and to help them with their mission. But how can we be true allies if they can't trust us completely, right? If they cannot be fully transparent. And that ultimately led to Aglaya taking such an extremist action. And now the gap has widened even further. But Finon, now realizing that, has taken it upon himself to now be fully transparent, to tell us everything, and to give us as much, flexibility and comfort to try to bridge the gap between us going forward. And obviously, Castoris being behind him implies that she also will be doing her best to bridge the gap again. So everyone has acted within reason, even the Astral Express, even Aglaya, Finon, and Castoris. And as a result of our different beliefs, ideals, and upbringings, we've interacted in ways that have caused conflict and resolution, right? And now, only by being truly transparent with one another can we potentially come together, right? And it is just really good character writing. It really is. No, yeah, Castoris says it as well. So Dan Heng leaves the decision to us because Dan Heng rightfully recognizes that out of all the Astral Express members, we are potentially the most empathetic. So obviously, myself and most people would choose to stay in Amphoreus. And of course, as we continue to prove ourselves to Aglaya, we maybe potentially will regain her trust more and more. Because obviously we are offended, but Aglaya was the first person who was offended, right? Because we broke her promise. So we basically go back to our room. We go to rest. We can skip past this. This is the scene I have a problem with. I don't think the scene is bad, by the way. I think it's the idea of the scene. I think the scene is well executed. And I think I've seen a lot of other people criticize the scene as well. So you get a scene with Tribi and Aglaya basically having a conversation. So it's this part right here. Basically, Tribi is like, Aglaya, were you actually intending to take their lives away? And Aglaya says, certainly not. I think they should have left this ambiguous. I don't necessarily have a problem with them confirming that potentially Aglaya was going to let us live. But what I have an issue with here is she is so certain about this. She never intended to take our lives. And I think that to me is ultimately what cheapens the scene from before just slightly. And a lot of criticism that I've seen towards Aglaya's character, rightful criticism, because I've seen a lot of criticism like, I don't like her. I don't think that's good criticism. But good criticism that I've seen towards Aglaya is that they should have fully committed to her actions from the scene before. And I agree. Or maybe not fully committed, but this is such a contradiction. Like if this line had read like, I would have preferred not to, but I would have done what needed to be done depending on what I heard, right? That would have been fine as well. Like if it showed that she didn't want to kill us, that even if we didn't answer completely honestly, she might not have killed us even then, That would have been better, I think. But this is just strict, just direct confirmation that it was never an idea, right? And I think that is a bit of walking things back. That is a little bit inconsistent. And I would have, if this singular line wasn't a part of it, I think it would have made her character that much more stronger. I still think her character is extremely strong and very interesting. But yeah. So, and then everything after is just adding on to that fact, right? So, also, yeah, I'm usually not the biggest fan of these. Like, my plan was to test, the characters, but I think within the context of her identity and like her personality, I think it works. So I think this line is fine, but I don't think this line works because we got this line right here, right here. This line really kind of decreases the quality of everything that comes after, in my opinion. Like I said, if they would have just changed this singular line to like, I would have preferred not to kill them, but I would have done what needed to be done, depending on what I heard. That would have been much better, in my opinion. So, but anyway, this obviously gives more perspective to her line of thought, to Tribby's line of thought. It also, you kind of get the perspective on how Tribby and Aglaya think as demigods. You kind of get the sense that they are a bit inhumane. They've lost touch with their humanity. So, right. Also, one thing is, this I think is also fine, but under the context, the line that she never intended to kill us, I don't think works as strongly either. The fact that she was aware of Caceres's true feelings and that she instead of like forcing them out of Caceres, or like maybe not forcing that, but encouraging Caceres to speak her true feelings, she kind of used the situation to her advantage. I think that's interesting. I think that's a very interesting perspective to take, because again, it shows her kind of distance from her humanity. But again, under the context of that certainly not line that she has, it doesn't work quite as well. But then, yeah, you get perspective on the fact that, yeah, I mean, shit is really difficult in Amphoreus, and some people have to take hard stances. And ultimately, she's taken that role upon herself. So, yeah, this is a this is a good this is a good line, because I remember like when I was streaming, I actually said this directly. This is what I was thinking in the moment of in this scene right here. So, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and skip past this. I think most of this scene at that point. Oh, this is the introduction to Mem. Obviously, foreshadowing for what comes later. So you wake up the next morning, and you go and proceed to talk with Don Hung. So, yep. So this is going to be a good time to take a bit of a break. I'm going to go get a drink of water. Everything after this, I think, is going to be mostly quick recap. I think most of like the recap that I wanted to get really in depth has already happened. So, and obviously there's a lot of gameplay scenes that happen. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna take a bit of a break, guys. We'll be right back, and we'll speed through the rest of the story recap, because the rest is going to be mostly just narrative, um, and pushing the story forward. All right, chat, we're back. Sorry, I just went to the bathroom really quick. Quick drink of water as well. So when you talk for as long as you talk when you're doing something like this, it can be murder on your throat. So one quick thing, really quickly. I realized while I was taking that break, because usually when I take breaks, I will pull up the stream on my phone just to make sure everything's working well. The OST that's playing during our Be Right Back stream seemed to have poor audio quality. Like it was out of tune for a bit. I'm not sure what the hell's going on there. So I'll watch back the stream. I'll take a look at the VOD and see if the audio quality remains poor. But yeah, I'm not sure why. So my bad. I always thought that every time that you guys were on the Be Right Back screen that it was perfectly fine. So who knows? Who knows what's going on? Anyway, back to the story recap. Like I said, Super Bowl at this point has started. So oh wait, no, it starts at 5:30. So I got a little bit more left. I do have plans that I have to get to, so I am going to kind of speed through this. But I think most of it is going to be stuff that we can go through pretty quickly. So yeah, basically you'd go and talk with Don Hung. And basically you guys are like, let's go see the Crisis Heirs. You go and see the Crisis Heirs, and you get news that basically Tribby has found the base of Castrum Cameros. We are able to go carry out the mission. So all of the Crisis Heirs have gathered. So Finon, Mighty, Castoris, us obviously, and Aglaya. And we are now deciding what we want the mission to be. So this scene is really cool because it's the first time we really get a gathering of the Crisis Heirs like this. And it's also the first time since everything that happened the previous day that we get to interact with the Crisis Heirs. And now, even though there's a gap, a broken trust between us, everyone, all the information has been laid out, right? We are now fully transparent with one another. And so we are now able to kind of work together with common understanding of the true stakes of what's going on. So basically, Aglaya and Finon and Mighty decide that everyone going to take on this mission is a bad idea. Some people should be left behind to protect the city just in case, and some people should go to fight Nigador. Which makes sense, right? Jeopardizing all the Crisis Heirs in one battle is just a bad idea. If things go well and all the Crisis Heirs die, then Amphoreus is fucked. So Castoris stays behind, and so out of the two of us, she elects for one of us to go and for another one to stay. I actually think that this is her trying to kind of make it up between us a little bit. She doesn't want to risk both of our lives at once. And she doesn't want also for one side to have complete influence of just the Crisis Heirs. I think she acknowledges that, okay, if both Don Hung and the Trailblazer go, right, then they don't have any influence on what happens in the city during that time. Vice versa. If both of them stay behind in the city, then they don't have any influence on what happens in Castrum Kremnos, right? So she wants one of us to go because that way Don Hung or the Trailblazer is able to influence the events that happen in each area, not cutting them out completely, which is a smart perspective to take as a leader, especially one that has offended that other party. So basically, it's decided that Mighty is going to go because he's from Castrum Kremnos. Makes sense. Finon is going to go because he's Finon. And that obviously we need to go because we are the main character. So they fight over who gets the core flame. Mighty doesn't want it because of his beliefs and his ideals. And Finon wants it because Finon has always dreamed about being a proper hero, like a demigod. So you make your way over to Castrum Kremnos. You get a nice little bit of banter between Mighty and Finon here. And compared to the very first scene that we've seen them in, you can tell that the relationship not quite as antagonistic. They're definitely rivals for sure, Mighty and Finon, but you can tell they're comrades in arms, even friends to a certain extent. But yeah, you basically make your way through Castrum Kremnos. You do get little scenes of dialogue between the two of them. Like you get the sense that Mighty is kind of struggling with this. You definitely do get a little bit of vulnerability with him, right? and that Finon picks up on it, which again lends to the fact that they are proper friends and not just enemies. Right? They're rivals first and foremost, but they're comrades, right? So, and then we're gonna keep going. Like I said, we're gonna be skipping through a lot of this because a lot of this is just gameplay. Eventually, you do get to a part though where Mighty shows a pretty significant amount of vulnerability. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, throughout all this, they're like holding like this fun game, like whoever kills the most Titankin gets the core flame. Right. And is this where they yep, so basically you come to this figure called Chrysius Leo, who is very similar to Verax Leo that we saw from in Akama, right? But this entity clearly has had a positive influence on Mighty. He is his teacher, or kind of like his master, who raised him or taught him combat or taught him the ways of Castrum Kremnos before it fell to madness. And you can tell that seeing Chrysis Leo, his teacher, so weak, so vulnerable, ultimately it brings out the vulnerability in Mighty. And you can kind of sense that Mighty, this is the first time you really see Mighty truly be vulnerable, right? You kind of see hints of it as you work your way through this section of the story, but this is where it really kind of comes out. Mm-hmm. So basically, as they get closer to Nigador, they start to become more and more vulnerable. Mighty, obviously shaken by his teacher being so weak, and Finon coming to the realization that this is his first mission. He is about to come face to face with his first real kind of point of destiny, and he could die. Absolutely. So you go forward even more, skip past this even more. And as you get closer, the tension starts to build as you get to hear, right, the voice of Nigador, and the screen starts to turn red. And I'm actually going to turn the volume on for when we cross this door, because I think the voice acting here is phenomenal. Like, you just feel the madness and the kind of malice that Nigador is being corrupted with at this moment in time.
But how can I pretend that this is just an ordinary battle?
But yeah, this is really good. This is an amazing internal monologue.
And purpose all depend on this.
Like seeing
The suffering of your people and your corroded homeland.
seeing Finon come face to face with this fate that he's been wanting for so long, but now he's scared, he's hesitant, he's cautious because he knows the stakes are at hand, right? But Mighty responding with a very simplistic perspective that because of everything that has happened, there's only one path forward, comes Finon down. And this is, I think, the best example on the dynamic between Finon and Mighty. They obviously are rivals, but they assure one another. Oh, it's so good. The voice acting, dude, is so good. Fucking Nigador is such an amazing antagonist. Oh, pop off, bro. Props to the voice actor. Bravo. And Finon gets a little bit of voice acting brilliance here as well.
I may not be able to fight like you, but I will do battle in my own way and bring down this.
Oh, it's so good with the OST and Finon just yelling. I remember what I was talking about earlier, how the voice direction is really good. This is a perfect example. Just the impact of it from both Mighty and Finon. You truly get the sense that they are battling for something beyond them and potentially, to their deaths. Really, really good stuff. So they defeat, kind of quote unquote defeat Finon, but basically you get the reveal that fucking Nikador has an immortal body, very similar to Mighty, and that defeating him is currently impossible. So we need to go figure out a way to defeat him. And while we do that, Mighty is going to basically combat Nikador one-on-one until, you know, until we're able to find a way to basically strip away Nikador's immortal body and defeat him properly. So we basically go back to Castrum Kranos. We speak with Tribi, we speak with Castoris, and we speak with Aglaya about what happened. That Mighty is currently holding back Nikador in battle, dying probably continuously over and over again, continuously to fight. Aglaya reveals to Finon that the reason the city is not panicking is because she has kept this information from the city. Again, showing to her kind of like preference to keep everything in control and everything under wraps, lending again to her paranoia, but also as a leader, probably the right decision. So, but yeah, basically, Finon's like, hey, we need to go do something to figure out a way to take away his indestructible body. And oh shit, didn't mean to do that. Okay. So basically what is decided on is that Castoris, Danhung, Finon, and the Trailblazer are gonna go to get Orynyx to hopefully help us, to show us the past, or at the very least give us a way to combat Nikador and to be able to defeat him properly. So we go to this temple of Nikador, basically with Castoris, and you go through this trial, right? It's a very long gameplay scene, and throughout this trial, Orynyx is speaking, and Castoris, being with us, is able to translate. And you get this perspective that Orynyx does not like us. They don't want us here, but most importantly, they kind of blame the Crassus heirs for a lot of the troubles that are happening within Amphoreus at the moment. And I think this is proper foreshadowing that the Crassus heirs are not going to be this paragon of good within the story. And the Titans are not going to be this paragon of bad. There's going to be a lot of gray, which honestly, we've already seen that from the start. And I think this is the introduction to that. So you go through this gameplay scene, right? You get to the end for the most part. And you start speaking with Orynyx. And Orynyx holds their stance firm. They hold the stance firm. They're just like, hey, listen, I don't trust you guys. I don't want to help you. And too bad, so sad, right? And Finon, obviously he is worried. He is concerned about Mighty and Akama. And after basically continuously throughout this trial and in this moment being rejected by Orynyx, he takes on a very harsh stance. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. The Orynyx is basically blaming the Crassus heirs for a lot of the negativity that's happening within Amphoreus at the moment and antagonizing the Titans. So, and yeah, Finon acknowledges this, by the way. So, but he's basically takes on the stance that, like, hey, if we are not able to conclude this peacefully, I will do what needs to be done. And I will take your core flame and search through the past for an answer to defeat Nikador if that is what is necessary. And yeah, from Finon's perspective, it makes sense. His friend, his rival, Mighty, is combating a god by himself and continuously being wounded, if not continuously dying, because he has an immortal body, both him and the Titan. And that's cruel. The more time that passes and leaving Mighty to his own devices is cruelty. And so they're just pleading with Orynyx for something, right? But Orynyx calls out to us, to the Trailblazer, and says, Mother. And I'm like, hey, yo, what the fuck? What is this? What is this piece of dialogue that we're getting, basically? And this is really interesting, right? Who is Mother, right? Is it the Stellaron? Is it potentially Mem, right? Who is inside of us or something? Who is Mother? So, but basically, we get a different scene, and oh my god, This is probably my favorite scene, and you guys know why. So this is the official introduction to Mem, right? You get to see her in all her glory. She's super cute. I actually really like Mem. I love her design. And now we are basically getting what we came here for, which is looking through the past or getting a way to combat Nikador in his immortal body. But we are looking through the past, not of Nikador, but our own past. And this is so fucking good because this is something I've been asking for a while. Who is the faction or the group most important to the Trailblazer into the story besides the Astral Express? Stellaron Hunters. And we know that the Trailblazer was once a Stellaron Hunter, that they were once together. And this is that past, right? So you go through, you speak with Himiko, ? You speak with Dan Heng, ? Right? And it's later revealed, of course, that these are not Himiko and Dan Heng, especially from the sense of the dialogue and that the lines are saying. Like, Himiko doesn't speak like this. Dan Heng does not speak like this. So, yeah, it's Kafka and his blade. And so you kind of start to see the parallels. Also, to me, this officially confirms that Dan Heng and Blade are supposed to be their foils, right? So the foils are very obvious. Kafka and Himiko are the foils to one another. Dan Heng and Blade are the foils to one another. Firefly and March are the most obvious foils to one another. And Silverwolf and Welt are the foils to one another. So that is probably the least powerful connection, right? The least powerful foil to one another, Welt and Silverwolf. But I'm sure we'll get more development to that foil later down the line. So yeah, now you get a different scene. This time with Sam and Kafka and Blade, right? And you walk through your past and you get a sense of how the Stellaron Hunters dynamic works, but not just that, but also how you used to be with them, right? So this is all a really good scene. But this is an amazing scene, right? But this is the start of the most powerful scene, right? There she is. There she is. That's our girl. Oh my god. I did not think we would see her so soon. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a while till we saw Firefly again. But obviously the Firefly from this time is very different than the Firefly that we know. This is probably around the time where we first joined the Stellar Hunters, or when Firefly first joined the Stellar Hunters. And she still hasn't had time to really develop her emotions as just a normal girl, right? This is very different from the Firefly that we know on Pentaconi, right? So you go through, you talk to each one of the Stellaron Hunters, right? You get more perspective on kind of like the dynamics between them and the Trailblazer from back then. Kafka, I think Kafka's, in my opinion, her kind of dialogue here is the most powerful, even the one between Firefly. Because Kafka, right, is almost as important, if not more important, to the Trailblazer than Firefly, right? It's very obviously Kafka and Firefly who are the most important characters besides the Astral Express to the Trailblazer. So anyway, Blade even says it again. Don't let Kafka down. Don't disappoint her. She has done a lot for you, basically. So basically, this is the first time that Kalis/Stell get any perspective on what happened before they woke up on the Herta space station. And you get this nice cutscene where, Firefly, Silverwolf, Kafka, and Blade, and then it pans to the Astral Express, showing the different, kind of the different, the different foils they are to one another. Even though, like I said, I disagree with the placement right here. I think Blade should have been here and Silverwolf should have been on the left, because I think Dan Heng and Blade should be foils to one another, and Welt and Silverwolf should be the foils to each other. But this is a scene that, each story patch we get a glance from an Eon, and this is Fully's glance, right? Fully glances towards us, and we get a bit of their power. Their power being this pink rat that we have with us now. Or bunny probably would be better, which is Mem, obviously. So you get an official introduction to Mem, right? This is her introduction to the story. And basically, you get one final kind of like send off with the Stellaron Hunters, where the Trailblazer is able to kind of like internally come to terms that he did have a relationship with these people before, and that he this identity that he had before is unfortunately gone. So, and obviously Kafka gives the long speech on who they are, their purpose, right? Their connection to the finality. Let's dance, let's dance. It truly feels like a farewell to this. Yeah, Sam says it as well, or Firefly. It truly feels like a farewell, like the Trailblazer is saying goodbye to who he was previously, right? And maybe he one day is going to be able to reestablish this dynamic that he had with the Stellaron hunters, right? And he's already done so to a certain extent, right? He doesn't necessarily have an antagonistic relationship with any of them, particularly. And obviously, he has a very positive relationship with Firefly. So um, he's already begun to establish a connection with them again. And it's a bit melancholy, right? It's a bit wistful, but it's nice. It's nice to get. It's nice for the Trailblazer to get like a form of closure here, right? I think. So we can skip past this, right? And so basically, you get a little bit of fan service here. You get the two most important characters in the game to the Trailblazer besides the Astral Express, Kafka and Firefly, and you get to choose which one you want to kind of talk to. It's a fan service moment, obviously, but it's also a nice reminder of how powerful Kafka and Firefly are as characters and how important they are. You could make a very good argument that these two characters right here on your screen are the most popular characters in the game, right? Kafka and Firefly. So, oh, it looks like he chooses Kafka. Perfect. Because I chose Firefly, so I already know. Oh no, is he going to choose Firefly? Okay, he chose Firefly. That's just fine. I obviously chose Firefly. Firefly is my favorite character in the game, one of my favorite characters of video game history. I have her sword right behind me. It's right there. So, but I will eventually want to search up Kafka's conversation here, right? What is really cool about this scene, though, is seeing. I'm guessing the same thing happens with Kafka, right? Seeing the fact that their relationship has progressed, right? Time has passed, and Firefly and the Trailblazer have since formed a connection. They formed a friendship, a bond with one another, and you can kind of see this in her, right? Her expression is much more emotional, more resonant, and this Firefly that we have right here is much closer to the Firefly that we met in Penacony, right? This is the Firefly that we know and that we love. This sweet, considerate, kind-hearted, yet still very strong and resolute Firefly that we know from Pentacon. And you're basically able to get a sense of closure again between the Trailblazer and from before, right? Because this Trailblazer now has all of his memories, right? And you can kind of see like they're sad, right? Both of them acknowledge that this is a day of parting, right? And that when they reunite again, their connection will never ultimately be the same. But Firefly acknowledges that, they're going to be able to form a new connection, that you know, that the people they are at their core are the same people. And, that she wants to get to know the Trailblazer again, but with a new perspective, right? She wants to they want to form a bond, not just as Stellaron hunters, but also as just friends, true, unique people that care for one another, right? Yeah, this is a great word. It's a luxury that they're going to get that chance, right? And Firefly bids him farewell properly, right? It's an amazing scene. And I'm sure Kafka gets the same amount of care and passion put into this scene as Firefly's conversation. It's an acknowledgement of how powerful each of these characters are, the Trailblazer and Firefly, or the Trailblazer and Kafka, and how powerful their connection is, right? Firefly and Kafka's relationship with the Trailblazer is special, not just within the context of the game, but as a character relationship. Like, this is a very good writing, very good character dynamic. So yeah, but then you get to remember Trailblazer, right? So you get Mem, right? Mem is now a part of you. She is just in the overworld flying with you all. And basically Finon, Dunhong, and Castares are like, what the fuck is this thing? This fucking pink rabbit that you have with. And the Trailblazer's like, I was given this power by an eon. That those gods that I told you about. Yeah, Dun Hung here says it, right? That the kind of like gods and eons that are from beyond the world, right? And they gave us this power, and this power is going to be able to help us deal with Nigador, right? So that's basically the conversation that takes place. And one final thing that we get here is basically, again, a quick scene. I really like this. I remember really liking it when I saw it. Is a quick scene between Castoris and Orynyx, which really shows just how compassionate Castoris is, right? Shows how caring she is and how empathetic she is, despite, her power. So yeah, basically, you go back to Akama, and you basically go through and you speak with people. You speak with Cartona specifically, and you start getting kind of fragments of the past that Mem is going to be able to use to kind of put together a full past that hopefully will allow us to get insights on how to defeat Nigador. You also get a brief reunion of Namionis. One thing that I do appreciate them, I was frustrated with him. You do get an apology, right? You do get an apology. You get reflection. He reflects on his actions. So nice to get that, right? He's an NPC, so it's not that important. Nice to get a little bit of that. So basically, once you get the bits of the past, right? You go and you speak with Aglaya and Tribby. Or do you speak with Aglaya and Tribby? No, this is the change of perspective with her, right? Let me see. Yeah, you switch to Aglaya's POV, and this is a fantastic scene. This is what I was really hoping to get, is further dynamics on what Akama is like. We've heard about the council, and we actually get to see the council this time. And we get to see the way Tribby and Aglaya deal with stuff behind the scenes that the rest of the Crisis heirs don't deal with, right? These politics, these kind of this tension between the council and the Crisis heirs. It's really good stuff, right? So anyway, you get a conversation between this council, the Elder Canis, really specifically, and Aglaya and Tribby, where the council member is basically kind of like putting pressure on Aglaya and her recent decisions, and hey, just remember we're watching over you, right? And Aglaya correctly acknowledges it as just an empty threat. So, and this is a little bit of a. This is obviously, she says this in jest, but again, the fact that she's able to joke like this again definitely shows that there's distance between her and humanity. Absolutely. Yeah, she's obviously just joking. I really like their dynamic, Aglaya's and Tribby's. But yeah, basically, Aglaya goes around the city, taking care of like bits of corruption within the city. It's a really nice way to kind of endear her to the viewers' hearts, because a lot of the stuff we've gotten with Aglaya up until now has been mostly negative. So this is a good way to show her positive side, right? So the introduction to the spirit thief, I forget his name. Is it Bartholus? Hold on. Bartholus, yeah. So obviously he's going to be like a fairly important NPC later down the line. So then you get another scene between Aglaya and Elder. This one much more tense than the one before. This is very close to being just a direct conflict, because it effectively is just the Elder kindness basically threatening Aglaya with harm and violence. And she wants to really instill into Aglaya that the Crisis heirs influence, right, is temporary. That the council eventually is going to take over authority once more. And Aglaya basically calls out kindness. Is this a reflection of the people, or is it yours, right? And this is really ironic. Ease off the hostility. Yeah, like you weren't stalking us, potentially prepared to harm us or assassinate us in some way, right? So, but yeah, basically, you get the sense that Aglaya is basically fighting a war on two fronts: a direct war against, right, the Titan of Strife, Nigador, and the rest of the antagonistic Titans, but also the inner corruption of Akuma, which is clearly within the council. So, but yeah, Aglaya and Trinon this time have one last conversation where Aglaya basically acknowledges the potential threat that the council holds, but also that kind of like their opinion on the mission that is currently happening between the rest of the Chrysos heirs and Nigador. So you go back to Castrum Kremnos, and this is another very long gameplay scene. So Mem is able to correctly kind of connect us to the past, right? Us and Castoris. Finon at this point has gone on to help Mighty fight against Nigador, because Mighty fighting against Nigador on his own is just cruel and unjust, right? So now it's just us and Castoris. So basically, we're in the past now, and we have to find some way to take away Nigador's immortal body, his indestructible body. So let's show the first interaction. So the very first interaction that we have in this kind of like past world is with this character right here. Just this soldier, right? Or this gladiator. And at first I thought this is going to be nothing. That this is just going to be your regular NPC dialogue to push the narrative forward, right? But this NPC ends up being one of the best NPCs that we've gotten in Star Rail. So, just his introduction here. But fast forwarding, right? So, we get a lot of lore here between this Kremnos registration officer, the people that are basically administrating this trial or this test, and also this kind of natural tension between this Kremnos registration officer and this silent gladiator that we met earlier. And you really get this introduction that, oh God, Nigador and his followers, well, Nigador, before he fell, had some followers, right? King Euripon, that weren't all that great. And potentially Nigador was corrupted by his followers, by this king that didn't have the best agenda in mind. And that these people, this registration officer and the people helping her, were conducting this trial or this test as a method for something, for a hidden agenda that might not be very righteous. So anyway, we basically come in, we save this silent gladiator by offering him to be a part of our team, because in order to take this trial, it's a team of 3. So we basically become a team with the silent gladiator. And the silent gladiator's name is Nias. So that's Nias. So it's us, the Galactic Baseballer, Castoris, and Nias. So you go into this trial, and yeah, we're going to skip past most of this. But what is really cool about this trial, besides obviously the puzzles actually being really good, is the very slow but very obvious, and obvious in a good way, connection that is forming between Castoris and Nias, and also the Trailblazer to a certain extent. So obviously Nias is very strong and very perceptive, and he starts slowly piecing things together, who we are, our role that we play in all this. But most importantly, he starts to kind of get a sense of the feelings that Castoris has, kind of like this inner turmoil that she has, her natural kind of consideration and caring nature that she has towards other people. And you can tell he starts to become warmer and more endearing towards Castoris as time goes on. It's so good. He starts to take on kind of this fatherly role towards Castoris. And it's really good. And it's really sweet to see kind of him reassure Castoris as time goes on, and him come to realize the role that we are supposed to play and support us as we go into it, right? Because he constantly states this. He has a mission, right? But his mission is very vague. Like, we don't know directly what he wants to do. And he seems to support us, right? So things are kept vague on purpose, right? So we keep going through everything, right? That scene doesn't really matter too much, right? Castoris stops Nias from killing that guy, and again, this is further deepening their connection, right? Nias respecting Castoris's decision, him once again coming to a further and further understanding on just who she is as a person and her thoughts and ideals and beliefs. right? You keep going through the trial, right? Oh, there's brief reunion with Crisius Leo, which is pretty cool. And through all of this, well, actually, this specific section, Castorus is basically communing with the spirits of the dead, and I think this further emphasizes kind of like the endearment that Naias takes towards Castorus, because Castorus communing with the souls of the dead is very painful for her. You kind of see him kind of grow more and more concerned for her as time goes on. This is when Naias realizes the truth of everything that happens in the future. He's the one who picks up on this first, right? We eventually tell him the full truth, but he is the one who realizes it on his own, showing how perspective he is. So, and yeah, this is a good example of how kind of empathetic and caring Castorus is. And it goes, and I think immediately after, yeah, like Ananias acknowledges that, and he's like, "Hey, we have a mission, but I acknowledge your pain. I understand it, you know." So it's all amazing stuff. So you get to this last area here, where Castorus goes off on her own to do something. I forget. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, she goes to stall that specific Titankin, and we go through a puzzle to do something. I forget exactly what it is, but it's effectively going to take away Nigador's indestructible body in the present time, right? His final fragment of divinity. Yep. So we go through this puzzle. It's all intended to basically take away Nigador's indestructible body. But then you get this reveal that I think a lot of us suspected, but doesn't make this any less impactful, right? So yeah, Nigador went to go combat the Black Tide, and that's how he fell to madness, right? And they removed a part of their divinity, which is ultimately, by removing this divinity from them, is what gave them the indestructible body. But that fragment of divinity that they stripped away from themselves was reason, which is why he fell into madness. Well, one day reason was obviously going to try to make their way back to Nigador, and it's him. It's Nias. This is Nigador. Well, at least a part of Nigador that is reasonable, that has a conscience. And so this is really what begins this kind of like this moment of true vulnerability with Castorus, because you can tell that they've come to care about one another. Not just obviously the Trailblazer as well, but Nias and Castorus have come to care for one another. And knowing that this is Castorus's mission to connect once again and merge with Nigador, and of the 5 tenets, courage, honor, tenacity, and sacrifice, he is the last one that needs to go back to Nigador to basically give him back his divinity, but also take away the indestructible body that he has. Right? And they have to do this, otherwise Nigador in the present time is going to be indestructible. So, and Nias basically tells Castorus that doing so, his existence as Nias, his identity, will perish. It's going to disappear. He will be consumed by corruption, but also he will merge in with the rest of Nigador. Right? And this is its purpose. And but even so, oh, this is so good. I remember seeing this and I was like, oh, this is so good. This humanizes the Titans so much for me. And once again, it foreshadows later down the line that the Titans are gods. Yes, they are divine beings, but there's humanity within them. And that this kind of antagonistic approach that the Chrysalis heirs have taken towards the Titans, it might not be all that, it might not be all that righteous. Because he says that this is his purpose, right? He has to do this. This is what he was born for. But even so, this brief journey that he's taking with Castorus, he asks for her to remember him. Will you still weep for me, right? And she basically says, yes, all goodbyes, including your own, regardless of your existence, are sad. And Naias credits her that he has learned a lot from Castoris, that he has changed for the better because of her empathy and compassion, right? And he guides her one last time. He plays this father figure for her one last time, right? Basically telling her that this epic journey that you're on, this your role as a Christos heir, there's glory in it, yes, but there's also suffering, right? And then he kind of gives his perspective on his philosophy, strife, that yes, it's negative and it can cause a lot of suffering, but that from that suffering, humanity and existence is able to grow and develop. And it's true. This is such a good scene. Nias is such a good NPC because of his connection to Castoris, right? They each gain so much from one another. And they give one last promise that if they are able to defeat him, Nikador, that they will use his core flame in order to better the world, right? And Nias is able to then go peacefully. And one final send off. We're turning on audio for this because he deserves it. Oh, the voice acting of this is so good. Wham, what an amazing antagonist. This line, oh, it's so good. I am the scar that this world needs. What a perfect representation of Nikador and Nias and the role that they have to play in the story. But yeah, you get this cutscene where the past and the future start to merge. You see Don Hung and Phainon and Maide combating Nikador throughout this all. And Nias blocks Nikador and finally merges with him. And future and past merge. Yeah. Oh, and you get one of the best boss fights in this whole game. Just this cinematography, the music, the scene, the emotions that have been built up between Castoris and Nias, and Phainon and his destiny, and Mighty and his past and legacy with Castrum Kremnos. It all culminates in this final fight. It is such a good build up and payoff. So you do get moments of amazing voice acting here with Mighty and Phainon. Let's see if we can get a couple. Also, the OST popping off. Something very telling here is that Mighty and Phainon are very focused. Their emotions are running high. I don't think Castoris gets a line. Because obviously she's more sad, more morose because of the time that she spent with Nias. Or maybe she does. Yeah, she does get a line actually, but it's more, yeah, it's more sad. It's morose. She has to defeat him to grant him a befitting end, one glory, but also to put him out of his misery. Yeah. One final blow. This scene is fucking insane. They rush towards Nikador is about to blow up everything, but this is why. Oh my god. This is why not all the Christos there should have gone, because Aglaya and Triba use their powers to stop this just giant final stand from Nikador. Look at this shit, bro. This is fucking cinema. This is so good. Well, using their combined powers, they are able to stop Nikador's final stand, his final attack. And because of it, and the damage that he's taken up until now from these 5 characters on your screen, Nikador, Nias are able to pass on in glorious fashion and also put them out of their misery. No longer are they mad.
Nikador's core flame.
And the realization of this with Phainon here is so good, and Mighty as well. They've succeeded. Yep. They do such a good job at communicating just how crazy of a moment this is. So we're going to go ahead and mute once again. I'm going to unmute here in just a second, though. Right. It's like, you really get the sense that, man, this means something to these characters. Like, they succeeded. There's this core flame. Like, there's been so much suffering that has been caused by this long war, and it's over, right? Their overall mission is not over, but at the very least, they've made a major step forward, right? And Caceres reveals her promise that, take the core flame and use it for good, right? Yeah, and basically, Mighty asks for perspective on what they experience, and Caceres says, "Yes, absolutely. Let me tell you properly, right? When we return to Akama, I will tell you everything about Nice." And one thing that's so powerful about this scene is this exchange between Mighty and Finon. The kind of like, they are always rivals butting heads, right? But like, the realization of everything that has happened, they like offer to one another. Like, they know that they need to be as their comrades. They feel such a deep fondness and connection to one another right now, right? I mean, listen to the voice acting.
This honor is yours. Isn't it something you've been longing for?
Right. It's like so understanding. Yeah, like, there's so much respect and consideration for one another.
Any idea how exhausting it is?
And I think again, it's an acknowledgement to this moment for each of them, right? What it means for both of them. But eventually, very quickly, they revert back to their usual banter, right? But those brief lines of just like vulnerability, shared vulnerability with each of them, so good. So yeah, Finon takes the core flame and basically like return to Akama. But this scene is so powerful. Oh my god. Yeah, she basically tells us, "I would like to talk with Nias one more time." We're turning on voice acting for this because this is a good example of the voice direction that we really got in Penacony, right? Really steady, really steady, careful voice direction that is supposed to communicate softness and such crazy amounts of unspoken emotion.
Lord Nias,
And we get a nice, just beautiful art of her, just reminiscing about her time with Nias and Nikador.
only wish right now is to rest in peace. But you are the only one with answers to my deepest doubts.
So this is her again searching for guidance from Nias one last time,
Please tell me. Do you
and one
know
final
this?
goodbye to him, right?
I must find them. The half of
And
my
also this
soul
reveal that,
has
oh,
since
there's a
burned.
lot more to her character
I must take it back
that
to
we're gonna
her.
get in the future. She had something removed from her, and she wants to find it back.
See, she must travel to every Chrysos heirs of strife into this world.
Yeah, I just got a bit emotional there.
It's just me here.
Right.
No one else can see what you look like in the final moments of
One final acknowledgement of the bond that they were able to
Chrysos
form.
will still describe you as an embodiment of madness and corruption.
Right.
The god of war who incinerated all of their glory. Yet,
It's so good.
this moment,
It genuinely is very good.
I am willing to send you into the gentle embrace of death, to a sweet land full of blossoming flowers. Farewell, Titan.
This goes back to what she mentioned earlier, how all deaths are sorrowful, and how this death is sorrowful for her. And I think Nias/Nikador feel that as well. But yeah, coming back, Finon speaks with Aglaya. They communicate the fact that they succeeded, they have the core flame. And again, Finon offers it for Mighty. And again, Aglaya reminds Finon that, again, Finon, Mighty doesn't want the core flame. So, yeah, and this is something we've known from the very start, right? He does not want the core flame because he's scared of what he might do with it. So, Finon, obviously, is the one who should take the core flame. So you get this interaction. This is more pushing the narrative forward. The story for the most part is over now. So this is more resolution at this point. And so you get this nice exchange, this final acknowledgement between Finon and our main cast members of thank you for your help. I appreciate it. You know, I would like to invite you to the ceremony tomorrow where I will take in the core flame, right? So wait, what is it? We charge a fee for it. I mean, yeah, I would assume Aglaya is very rich. So yeah, basically you go back to the room, right? And something is different. Mem is able to speak fully now. This was super interesting to me. Like, huh? Why is she able to speak fully now? And I think it's because obviously we made progress. We have a core flame now. And it's very obvious to all of us now, to all of us gamers, that Mem is connected to this prophecy in some way. If it wasn't obvious already before, right? Yeah. So we can fast forward this. You guys go to sleep, and you get this really nice kind of journal. Basically, it summarizes the backstory and experiences of each of the Chrysos heirs. The first one you get is Mighty. We're actually gonna look through this at a later date. In fact, after we finish the story recap, we're gonna watch the Aglaya trailer still, but we're not gonna go into Star Rail. We're just gonna watch the trailer. That's where we'll end it. But yeah, we'll go through this at a later date. I do want to read through this. Should be fun. So yeah, so you get this kind of this book, and you get another amazing scene of one last kind of looking back on everything that happened with Finon and Castoris, and you really start to get deep into Finon's inner turmoil. His, you know, because we've gotten a lot of inner turmoil from many different characters, right? From Mighty, from Castoris, even Aglaya, we've gotten a little bit of insight into what she's thinking inside, what she's struggling with. But Finon is the one that wears the heart on his sleeve the most, right? But he's also the one that we've gotten the least backstory on. So now this is where we really start to get a look into his past, how it eats away at him, his wavering resolve, right? And then they're reminiscing again, right? And she asks him, "Are you still thinking about the past?" And you know, he says, "Yes, every second of every day." And everyone knows, besides the Trailblazers, obviously, that Aglaya knows, Castoris knows, Mighty knows, Tribby knows. They know what Finon is struggling through. They know what he has gone through, and that he is trying to move on, but that, you know, there's still a voice of doubt. Very well said. But she reassures him that, yes, Finon, you are special in some way. So it's just a really nice exchange between two very emotionally resonant characters at this point in time, and them reassuring one another, right? So just really nice stuff. Next, you get to the part of the story that I wasn't too fond of. Look, I know they had to put Herta in somehow. The banter between Herta and the fourth mirror is very good. But I am mostly going to skip past this until the very end. I don't think it really adds too much to the story. Basically, Herta is trying to commune with Noose. Makes sense, right? But also, actually, let's acknowledge this. You also get another reason why we should be sus of Black Swan. There is clearly some motive that the Remembrance has towards Amphoreus and towards everything. There was a memo keeper trying to spy on the Herta communicating with Noose. And this is done completely against her will. There was no consent here. She was spying. This was like stalking, right? So what's to say that Black Swan would not be willing to do something like this with Amphoreus, right? Or in any other world, right? The Remembrance is very sus. Or at the very least, the Guardians of Remembrance is very sus. And so this is a nice reminder of that. So anyway, basically, right before Herta is able to commune with Noose, right? We get this very small scene where she's basically hearing voices from elsewhere, And as you go through this path and as you speak with the mirrors more, right, the voices start to become very obvious on who they are. Herta wakes up and it's our best boy. It's dad and his son, right? It's Welton Sunday. They basically come to ask for help, basically. So Herta is like, you ruined my plan. And they're just like, oh shit, fuck, sorry. We apologize. You're an emanator. Look at this like exchange of glances. I'm gonna turn on the voice acting. Just I want to hear his voice. Yeah, I want to hear Sunday's voice.
Your plan?
Your plan? And Walt's like, my bad. I'm sorry, but it's urgent.
Sunday and I assumed something bad had happened.
So, but also it's all her fault because the door wasn't.
The door wasn't locked.
The way he says that is so funny.
The door wasn't locked.
He's like so matter of fact. And she's like, God damn it.
Fine. I am a person of reason after all.
Yeah, if you don't want to be interrupted, lock the door. But yeah, basically, Welt and Sunday have come here. Sunday introduces himself as a passenger of the Express. Obviously, eventually, he will be probably an official Astral Express member. Please, Hoyoverse. But yeah, they came here because some shit obviously is wrong in Amphoreus and they need help. So, but not only that, obviously March is suffering from something that is not good at all. So now we go back to Amphoreus. We're getting ready for the ceremony. Mem obviously is able to speak in full sentences now. Don Hung's like, it doesn't matter. You deal with that. So you go to the vortex of I forget what the name is again. Everyone is there besides Mighty. He shows up eventually, so they can begin the ritual now. So Finon approaches the altar, and basically Tribby, Trinon, conduct this ritual where he is going to get the core flame and become a demigod, very similar to Tribby and to Aglaya. So after the ritual, Nias shows up as kind of like a representation of the core flame, right? Obviously Castoris is like, Nias, my father. It's a moment for her. It's a nice moment. But yeah, it's not actually Nias, it's just a manifestation of the core flame, the Titan's divinity, to basically judge Finon. And Finon is judged to obviously be worthy because he's Finon. He's powerful, he's courageous, he's brave, he's empathetic, he's the quintessential perfect hero, right? But obviously an acknowledgement of his past and that his resolve wavers. And that if he wants to be worthy of taking on specifically the core flame of strife, he has to be able to harden his resolve, right? To showcase that even though he is still plagued by the memories of his past, that he can vanquish them and move on. Right? So, Finon goes on to state his willingness to go under this trial, and he is taken into the altar. And he gives us one last farewell that he will be back. And off he goes. Onto a campaign to hopefully win over the core flame and become a demigod. So, one last conversation between them all, right? Yeah, and then Aglaya, this is really important. I'm not sure what to make of this yet. It's both concerning, but also cool to see how much trust she has in the Finon. Because a lot about Finon has been, he is, again, a perfect Chrysos heir. Someone who is meant to lead Amphoreus into, its tomorrow, right? The perfect vessel to complete the prophecy. And Aglaya obviously has a lot of trust in him. And honestly, I do think this is true. I think Finon is meant to be special. he's meant to be this character of that's going to be very influential to the events of Amphoreus. But to show how kind of quote unquote focused Aglaya is on that, it's something, right? It's something. So Mighty shows up, and this is the final scene of the story, right? He, they basically catch him up to what happened. That Phynon has gone on to undergo a trial to conquer his fears and cement his resolve. And Mighty, as every other Crisis heir knows, right, acknowledges that yeah, he knew this was going to happen. Also, nice scene here. Mighty expressing appreciation and thanking us for everything that we did for him and obviously his home country. And acknowledging that he can be mannerful. And so this is basically telling the Trailblazers that, right, Phynon has a past. A very influential past, and that basically everything that he had, his home, his family, his close friends, like the way Cassandra says here, he wanted to protect it all, and it was all taken away from him. Death, destruction, who knows? But Phynon is being driven, plagued by a sense of revenge from his past against potentially the Titans, or who knows, whatever destroyed the life that he had before, right? Before he was a Crisis heir. And this trial is something that is focused on, what is more important to him, his revenge, his past, or his future as a Crisis heir, right? And he has to decide and toughen that resolve. Yep. And you get arguably the most important scene for the next patch of the story. We're turning volume on for this. Who is that? We know who that is. Phynon and a girl with pink hair.
Don't keep me in suspense. Come on, tell me already. What did you see?
We know who that is, right?
I just wanted to get a reaction out of you. All right, I'll tell you.
God, I love her voice actor.
This card is the Deliverer.
Deliverer? What is that?
And it's basically, just
The interpretation
this.
is really long. Maybe
I already spoiled myself on her name, but I'm not going to say it for my
this card means
this young girl who obviously is close to Phynon. They're probably very close friends.
and save lots
They are discussing their future, right? And
with your sword.
what will come to them eventually.
But
What's the matter? This is a good card.
And this is essentially just establishing a very important dynamic for the future Amphoreus story, right? Phynon and this character.
outside world is full of bad people. That's why they're always at war.
And also giving us insight to his past and how, I guess, pure and good his life was before he became a Crisis heir.
Well, little hero, if the day comes for us to say goodbye to ID Silizii,
Right. Basically,
become a deliverer.
you and I, the player, we get the sense that this girl knows more than she's letting on, right?
If something like that happens, someone will.
And she's basically warning, or like
Then I'll
she's like warning, or like kind of like getting him ready for his future, his destiny.
Don't worry. ID Silizii is a peaceful place. Bad people won't reach us here.
Yep, that's not true.
If you're not in a hurry, should we go play with the fairies again?
The voice actor they chose is very good.
okay. I love playing with them. I'll win back the wooden
And like, look how innocent he was back then, right? So pure.
Look at how excited.
And she's also like very like obviously pure as well, but she knows more than she lets on.
Have need for a deliverer.
And yep, that is her being cut in half. Holy shit. And this line at the same time, this just goes to show what Phynon went through, the horrors of what he went through, right? And this character is going to be immensely important later on, because we know that she is the XP for one of the most important characters in Honkai Impact III. Oh, the final scene of the game
Food's ready. March isn't feeling easy on
is obviously Himiko and March on the Astral Express.
no coffee.
And Himiko is taking care of March. You go into March's room, and Himiko has coffee in her hand, and her eyes go wide. She drops her coffee. It's a look of extreme concern because March is in deep, deep trouble. Oh fucking god. And that's where the story ends. And fucking hell. I can't wait for 3.1. We're not that far away now. It's gonna be really good. But yeah, amazing start to the story. I mean, just I did not expect the characters, the Christos heirs, to be so likable so quickly. I thought it was gonna take time for me to like them, but man, I love all of them. Aglaya is my favorite. Phynon is close behind. Castoris is close behind. Mighty, I also really like him, but I don't think I like him as much as those main three, but he's still an amazing character. And obviously Tribby is likable as well. And Nikador was Nikador and Nice are amazing antagonists. And the stuff with Herda was also good stuff. Nice to see Sunday again and Welt. I really hope Sunday and Welt and Himiko as well come down to Amphoreus quickly. In fact, I kind of want it to happen next story patch, so hopefully that happens. But yeah, amazing stuff. Just truly, truly very, very good storytelling. Some flaws, right? Some things that could be better. Like, for example, Himiko dropping the coffee here and her expression. This is a really good example of they probably should have done more with this, right? More expressive faces, maybe better camera angles, maybe showing her actually dropping the coffee would have gone a long way, right? So, and you know, even though the character writing is very good, it's not perfect. So, but yeah, amazing stuff. So, we're gonna watch to end off the stream because I gotta go to watch the Super Bowl. We're gonna watch Aglaya's trailer. 2 minutes, 24 minutes. It really sucks that she only has one. I feel like they really did Aglaya dirty. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time with this. This is my favorite character so far in Amphoreus. So, oh, turn on subtitles. So this is garment maker. She has multiple garment mixers.
What a beautiful morning. Time for my perfect master to start her immaculate
Oh,
day.
hello.
As a connoisseur, she speaks her mind.
Wait, that's actually really cute.
As an overseer, she keeps her word. And as an artist, she pursues the superlative.
Wait, this is a side of her we've never
She
seen.
can be somewhat impulsive.
Impulsive's a good word, actually.
Dance with me.
Those gorgeous steps. Her graceful bearing. Yet some insensitive brute always seeks to interrupt the irreplaceable moment.
God, she's so graceful.
Of course. My master has everything under control.
Oh, she's just. Oh my god.
Who am I exactly? You needn't worry. I am an insignificant to.
Look at this. This is such a good
Worry.
fire, gold, fire, gold. The two sides of her, right?
Fulfill that golden tragic wish. I am willing to be crushed to pieces.
So this implies that garment maker has a consciousness.
Adorned in splendor, bathe in gold.
Oh,
Time to cut fate's thread.
wait, no, this is the again. Backstory, maybe? Oh, backstory. She went through them some.
Die for me, garment maker.
As you wish.
Oh, oh my god, yo, animation. Oh, look at her in all her glory. Oh my god, the joints. Yo, what the oh, perfection.
Soldier. This city is the bed where we are laid to rest.
Oh my god, look how many there are.
Is the bed where we are laid
That's just a pile of garment
to
makers.
rest.
God, what a good trailer. I mean, it shows everything about her, right? At the beginning of the trailer, it shows that she can still be
From a
human,
perfect
right?
master
Look at
to
this.
start her immaculate day.
She wakes up,
Connoisseur.
likes to do her hair. There's a very human behavior, right?
She speaks her
Does a little twirl,
mind.
Perfect.
As an
right? She
overseer,
working,
she
right?
keeps her word.
She gets frustrated with her work,
She pursues
you
the
know,
superlative.
pursuing her hobbies, right? I need to turn off the audio. Dancing, right? She's impulsive, but yeah, she's also a warrior, right? Someone who is good in battle. But most importantly, I love this scene right here. It kind of shows the true side to her right here. Yeah. She can be graceful, peaceful, elegant, right? She can also be destructive and impulsive and powerful and forceful. Yeah. All this stuff. And then unlike the start of the trailer, as we get deeper into the trail, you start to see more of her demigod part of her side, right? As she starts to remember her backstory, right? A little bit. She starts to become more inhumane, more focused on the task of hand. No hesitation, just cutting down her enemies, right? And then no attachment to the garment maker, just off to the trash heap. She's such a human yet inhuman character, and the dichotomy between both of those two things and everything about her dialogue, it's just she's so interesting, man. I just love Aglaya. What a great character. Truly, truly great. Anyway, so it's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm already 30 minutes late for the plans that I had with my family, so I'm gonna go ahead and end stream there. But yeah, so next time you see me, it'll probably be maybe a little bit of Star Rail. Like we'll go inside, we'll do our dailies, and we'll do like the story with the book, with the different Crisis areas. But it'll be Zenless Zone Zero. So that's what we're gonna be doing next time. We're gonna be putting Honkai Star Rail to rest for at least a while. Because immediately from Zenless Zone Zero, we won't finish Zenless Zone Zero either. Day Trail through Daybreak 2 comes out in less than a week. That's going to be my priority. So obviously, Star Rail and eventually ZZZ will be put on hold. But stream tomorrow, we're going to be doing 2 streams. Like I said, the first stream I think is going to be the Zenless Zone Zero demo reaction. And then the second stream will be just catching up to the story and everything that we miss on YouTube. So it'll kind of be similar to this. So yeah, you guys can look forward to that. Anyway, hope you guys are having a fantastic Super Bowl Sunday. I will be joining you all and watching the game here in just a moment. So thank you guys so much for watching. It was always a pleasure. Till next time, guys. See you later. Peace.